تسبيحي ده تسبيحاج ده هنوه يا عشان سبب إيه تادي إيه دي تو سهلنا نيساكو سهلي عنديكو يخوزيشكو عندي دام أنا سهلي تاتو إيتو يخطأ يا هنا إيتو إيه خطأ إيه ده بتأم دنيجي ده سايكي تو هذا ناتيجة شيء خطأ إيش إيه له زيادة جودا نازين ده خطأ إيشكو تسبيل تخشى تعيش تجوز تسكازو ده نسيجنده إذا نسيت ده إيه إيش تدخل بزنه تاني ده إيه دي فرانسيس كيسي وشكي نسيجي ده بكأشين ده تودنا مش عند ده حديثي ده جون ده سوان ده صان اللي هو سخاية تسيس أدو تسيسان ده تويستان شاكي ده هيوكا نو تدو كونجونا إيه أدو خشيتي خشيوان نادات كيلو نادات أراد خريطين دون تاني أنا غير أنا بتحجون وتعطي جايكم خاتي تيجي الناس أنا زيدو أنا إيه هذا أظن تأكيد لي هذا ده يا إيه أود هذا يا إيه هو يا إيه بتخيل نيكلولا مكان وين هي شيء نو أود هذا يا إيه هندا شهود شكو بعديكم خيسني دو تسبيج ناني كاتو شكو إيشيكم بين خناج نباتو تسبيج بيجين لأن إذا نصلون هذا إيه هو لا تلتحم كونه هذا شيء هذا اللي كونه يبيده يبيده هذا اللي كونه شيل ياس هذا تقول كنا شين لون اللي كون خجل إن هنيجي نيجي هنا إنتو هذا اللي كون خا هي بكاج هذا اللي كون إيه هو إيه هذا اللي كون بيننا هو تخش أنت كون هذا إيه نيجي ننتا هذا اللي تخش كون هذا اللي كون إيه بيجي يتعلقوا إيه عشان صار إيه كون إيه هو أهان لنجي ده هو هو إيه بيجي إيه هاد إيه هو بيجي إيه كون إن خناجين بدو ده كون ده بعدين هي كنا جدليدو ده هذا بيجي ناني خليدو ده ليه خاطر ناقول تحتو ده هيك إيه جد نبلاني خليدو ده نشيدو نات آني نتلنيدو زو هتقابل خناجين بدو ده عشان زاشين ده تلاقيكم إيه بس نات أنتاكس الناس يردون جبا أهون بس إيه نانس إيه الياسلين اللي كونه أيات هي نجنجي جات أدي بالكذا هدي نيدو أدي كون تشيل نسلين اللي كونه إيه دو شو تخيل هاد إيه اللي كونه أدي كونه سنات آني تنلين اللي كونه يا دو بنا نسلي لا نجنجو عشان خارج لقى يتأدي عشان يجوز خشي يتأدي هتأدي هتأدي إيكم عشان تصدقكم أساج إنتاكس تنبأ ساتون نيل تنال كون إيه بيات إيكم اللي سنين تحت أدي كون إيه إنتاكس اللون بنت اللون ونزاشنا هو اللي سنين كون ده شيء أنا سنادي كا إيه كجنا كاتو ده كون ده أديكم بعد اللي كون ده يا ده كون إيه هو إيه بيك إيه لنجي وأتشنن لنجي عشان هتعشان إيه هجي نادي كاتو ده كون ده أدو نالشيات إيه جدو على ياتات إيه بيجي ناني كاكي بيجي كون كذا أني لكم باتشوفنا أني جد خدي ناس أنا لكم بيجي ناهو جس بيجي لكم نخاناجين باتولس باناجين باتولس نالشيات إيه أسلوبي لنجي شبابنا شبابنا جين باتولس يجي نادي كاسل ناديكم ليلو بتجيب لحظة ساكس لحظة حتى هونو داريكم بيجي ناني كاهني دولس عليكم ده حديثي تزنبه ده حديثي أنا كأقول هيك لأن ده بحديثي إذا بيجي لكم ده أديكم أنا بنال كلوس لأن ده باللين أنا بتبه ببيكاشي أنا بكون الكليب بكون إشكيس اللاج يكون ده Araba altinde kaşı bekaya na has ağaca. Ele bah naditi lukonde adot adikon na hodishin dido adikon adot adikon ya ne hilada hezlisto de dai adikon be on ne hikaya bakaje ne hegan has ağaca da trote ne tsin das ağaca konde ne trotan lije adikon beji lukonde adikon de adi ne ya trahle dan le adikon de ba ini kliniki na hayalti igon khatsodil zunigi adikon ne higas zuni da bahnaditi ibtlani khanino ligo adikon lido de adai de komo to tsodil zun lido de adikon de alobin de zuni do huitse adikon altsin de khaje de ha de ya bakaje and who is under that is de kha de kon de salad and lo adikon de kha de kon e ba hitsido de penilni de dipendije dai de kon haditi ja de kon trote kon de hodin has age kon de neje hojon do de so se kon de kon hojon hasle do hojon hasle ja
كه لاسة سلا شنا وسي هي جنون نخص دين زدي بني بيه هذا بنحكي كوي نهناتها نادر الدوسين كه لاشنا داهدا بنحكي كون دي أجندة داتا سوس إيه خاطر اليا هذا بتشي كاي بلاد إتليلي ديلسا إيه يادي لكم خيلا بهدوزيلا recognizing guests and visiting officials in Ka. So Kadoish Nanta, Bishma Hasana, Naabik'íyáti committee members. Nhawido Khayla Kado. But I hit Nisi Lano Sonshi. Nata Yakagi Nahaho Ako. Khayla Sa.
Mr. Chair, Daniel.
Gushina Hoshinanta, Hemren Daniels. May now Jesus.
Yeah, Kodo Chairman Henyo, Kodo Pro Temp Chair, yeah, Kodo Adenta Kodo Shah's Tweet, Kodo then Kodo Nakabi Insling, Kodo Asian teacher, Kodo the Nils and Dolesh, Kodo Adonana Kodo, or he had the destination for you to the 4 chapters that I represent, Kodo Nasas on. والجيتخو شاتخو دوت أبيكن أطلعنا أطلع نازل ناد أنيش تشين الخدع سؤال خا نازل لأن جيت دا أشخو خلت أنا هذا خاغو تينغو هذا أنجي بابنند chapter staff chapter managers in the chapter CSC nana kodo PEP da Inish Aronana throughout the Navajo Nation, 110 chapters in Ecuador. I just want to thank all the 4 chapters that I represent, chapter officials. I see here within Frag, not able to unvow equal to Shiki. I think I just want to say thank you to my chapter officials and staff, and to all the 110 chapters of Social with $8. Merry Christmas, Nikita Dish, Christmas with the whole Zunago Christmas that all say. I don't Zunago in here that Doha. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Nilikodo. I don't Dakodo, a Dada Holsinakodo. The game of Senegate on Ansel Kahat, Saint of Senegate. What I have feet on the Kodo. Chairman Henio, thank you.
Daniels Jr. Khayla Nana.
is Delga begin
Nation Akada. Elmer PBG. Ada.
yeah that to tell it on protect and Cherhenio. Yeah, Tato people that are on the line though. I don't see that others need to understand. That even if you not get this, though the recognition gas and then you there. I believe that the outcome chapter is on the line. I don't know that President Lindsay and Lindsay Lorenzo Lee is on the line. He's last on the 22 years as he retired veteran chapter president. In who is ABK that in on it, Hinan Batchin. I wrote the vice president. Felix Lachini, I wrote the Shadito Elizabeth Yazito, his secretary treasurer. I wrote Shadito. I'd like to recognize her, Margie Barton, that is Hinan Batchindo. I don't got staff that can't get up, they're on the line. That justice and agenda in they're on the line. I recognition the so all my chapters too, so the chapter official that Lindo. That means Jason will be on the line. So I just wanted to extend my gratitude, appreciation to NTA Ajit Walter Haas, though I don't know that Ajit general manager and then I don't know that Rex Kuntz Ajit deputy manager and then that they did a very a good job, that completing Dalcon John Durrell's Parliament extension corner. Before the Thanksgiving, they put an extra crew there, and then they're working overtime, and then even on weekends to light up some homes in the area. I see about people were texting us to say that it's very incredible to see a light, having electricity inside your home before Thanksgiving. So I'd like to extend my appreciation to if Dalcon chapters on the line, if NTA is on the line, and another thing too, so I think you'll each chapters they have club members. Doing their community planning, Dalcon club members are on the line, so the grassroots has on the door, not argue, but not argue. And Honda Kilego, either they have this single. Thank you.
Ich nicht gerne schon Tag oder behind Zigilo, behind Zinidi. Wenn ich oder Nana oder Naso, Hilas oder Nana. Schon am Tag oder schon da geht Eugene so out of the holidays.
Corridor, okay. Dr. Elmer Guy, all shoot the house went over not the very thing of not to go take that is the shed on the don't that shed on the machine about the or that share the big Elmer Guy. Matthew, thank you again. And all the kids that have read the Bible and
Thank you for Dr. Elmer Guy. And he say into you Navajo Telecommuni University that is trap.
This is Delegate Brown.
Delegate Nathaniel Brown,
Oh, yeah, Toba Hansel look up, but it's Shane Kiani, that's a chat, as a Sanderson. I don't know, they, he had the day sneak, E.K. Dean Lay, Chimby, Twaha hot, so Ado, then a hot, so do, Twinish, they are the, na kid, Shara Nite, Nanish, Shahan Days, Lado, Lago Sada Elia, Coho, Jono Bessendays, chapter managers, Ado, I see Gishaka Nalwogi, Shanala, Law, Renee Hoshnik, legislative district assistant. Anehi, legislative district assistant, the Halola, what a Beshakail, what do Sahid Ais Nisho, Nahonad, a coho, lay chapter, you at Hahio Isho, hold just Abedi Abichet. Nahan Neho, de Lachait Abed, no coho, Ashi Nusco, Sanant Anike LDA, Hodat, Ahayondat, Nesto. It's you go other horse coho ba hen do nan this could nilia na kid ado card see ado lesson da ado is later and da abira and such a che but the snow yes it's a hard day lay Peterson's shared a really good knowledge with me about 8 years ago. He said, there's going to be a beginning and an end to everything. Should that know yes, it's a hatsina. Naabik'íyáti ado kad I just want to wish everyone the best of luck. Ado benigait enige nikidenaya. So it is a privilege and an honor to serve our people. It's a blessing by the end of the so idea by Hetane Sink so I see legislative district assistant. It's with a bay a kite asdo and hidden bait a coho and to all the other LDAs and to the staff as well from our delegates office to Office of Legislative Service, to our legal counsel, to the Speaker's office. At being the Ashi, 4 o'clock in the morning, text Ash Oban shut to our staff, a call, Hehanka the Dishnis, a staff igi, with a best, you respect the husband note. Dini couldn't none the Kahi Beshmasa Annoshini. I hope that you treat our staff really well. They han bekin dajil nishi but the hajon do but khayada hot eho ayo na nishi da ne plont le anna an let the bit khadat ziho anna an let the bit jit el ta akut ele eko ayo ba no sendo le to hehen ki le to all our staff and our 6,000 plus Navajo Nation employees hehen ki le eko ado shinkwegi nothing that you let okay on the shot and that's the she Benil Toyd at that evening. On Sodole, thank you, Speaker Pro Tem.
The Sheikh National Don my hidden Ziggy, and you can the she LDAs when you have other staff. Hello, I hear us though, National
Pro Tem Wanika.
Shnanda Delegate Edison Wajay Wanika, Viga.
Thank you, Pro Temp Hinu. Appreciate you taking care of business for us today. I don't Honorable Brigade here for Jonon Fatsudins and a to the alone Eban Ziki. So I wish all governments would do that. Thank Heavenly Father for all that they have. And I really appreciate us as Navajo Nation doing that all the time. So all this time since the 24th Council, when we were elected, I
at times I really don't say a lot on the floor, but I do appreciate the people throughout the Navajo Nation. Yego ba Hinson. I don't the chapter though say Oak Springs chapter though chapter official dan lenigi yego ishil nesto yeo idnei kanacha chapter president Ben Smith or vice president Daryl Nelson. I don't the secretary treasurer Arlene Radish. I don't the Grayson representative Melvin Harry. I don't the CSC so Mr. Tabaha, the chapter Yisladnish. Although could St. Michael's Sige chapter president Mary Beth Sage, although Kern Hen a vice president, although secretary treasurer Clara Baya, although the Grayson rep Ernest Naz. Although a lot of us had problems with CSCs not being vacant all this time. That's where it's been at St. Michael's chapter. And but Teresa Tabaha AMS of the Yego chapter Hika na law. Kuna ni ba Hikwinson ko da ni the neighbor on Shinadi Yitla the Nay Bohni Hishinat Aninat and Plido Lit a na Agi Basula Asinil Ton Hasula and Night Agi a Kotina Ibn Yanaho or Ishin Pehishin at Anidol Lessons and Ika at Isnel a coro. By Hikwinson, so that his own law, but on the Sunday, it told Lesson. Do and I a condition a ton has a lot on Nilto. The Koba Hinson, although she thought to the Yego, LDA Shika, Lodina Haja, to the Sadoza, which store Nihito the Yego, not and the study base mass until I'm not kidding. This is my second term. To the Yego, on I can loan on this. To the Nihira. LDA without the initial consumption holders. Because other than this staff or your by Henson, I need to the yard echo, but he need Asian his abodni to the I need the yard H basic zone to the yard Yel to Nihas wind in national Nahada Hon. So to the Nini yat H and Nabi Basit zone, 80 pain hit seal. Because by him, Seneca, these Hunzao, Sanetlo, Hasinzao to the Yego, Ian, Shidelia, Arnold, Besmas, Arnold, Senegi, as Arnold, Hoasano, Zonon, Hins and so. So I can lawyer or hit the shieldness. A cohon so either she had in it or less. Thank you, Pro Temp. Appreciate the time.
Shikala, National Delegate Edison J. Wanika. The National Hall just to hear after Hanana seasons in the base Masana.
Delegate Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay and the other.
Oh, yes, to Honorable Delegate today's Pro Tem. I don't hear chair yet. For a share, though, say, Paul begin, there go. The Edo Bishop gates and up on Sabbath King, I beat Todo Tonham, a Schlagotanas, but has the Anagi a ban shadow, Tadishkision, and Slingo be the Tony, Bash's chain, for the genie that should check here, Anish, Nalla that, without Slinko. Or should I hit anything? It won't feel right if I don't say anything. I would like the other thing here, not the more part of the more as it say. For as a new delegate coming into town in Wonder, I was welcome. John got the transition into becoming a new delegate was made easy for me because of the staff. This Nahanda Nishiki. It's on the legislative staff. I see you go, Nakatahwint. Ado, so nice, no, so stand Handa, Neligita. Ado, Egon, John Gon, Hatkit, the enough Nisa, could you hold Jage? I have nothing but respect for you, and how you the the more be that the more go the under okay will Jage. Ado, Satin, Ada, Nito, don't die, Nishkon, Hiati, Nahati, enough Nishla. Aron Zagon kitten that the Jah Hashin Zad. I can't do it, or con he came dark to make our jobs easier. But I see you, but you have no hard things. To me, you have just as much of a hard job as the council delegates doing his job traveling. So I really do appreciate it. Office staff, quite sandy door, quite. Annin da Credon, Jungo Ian Hunter, Nishkomzad, a whole chief of staff, should Sherlin, a con staff, here, other speaker staff, staff, is that shaded on the Shnahoy, Hoyniande, Jungo Ian, Hanson, and so on, speaker's office staff, Jungo Ian, got that. Other ya could at council chamber, Nahisi Tango, Jungo Hogata. So we started off with Mr. Tom Flatero on the mic, sitting next to the speaker, but a manual Rico. Ado at the Kushi at Agosta, Nikidan Shadasa, Sani Shamata, at Hadati. Ado AIC about Hinson. Our job was made easier because of the excellent and the most professional staff that I have ever worked with. As far as any place in an office setting, you made our jobs easier. LDA that I could I call Angie. No, he looked at now. I call just came in. Ashnana, Jerry Williams, so it makes our jobs easier. They do the legwork for us while we're at meetings and in the window. My colleagues on the 24th Navajo Nation Council, it has been a pleasure. It was quite a ride. Yeah, I need to go. But that's not the cut on it. We wish you well. We continue to pray for your safety and good health. So has seen all this here, educators, Naslini, Shlagotana, and Libet has the energy, but is not Ahia Stahagi, a share and Jungo deal this bishing. I could ego a whole just all this lay, yes, it's not Hanana, the dicky. She not ego your casa. A slab it has cans, but as she they need all this. I take but they need all this. The way we have always been working. Just because we're not going to come back, don't mean we slow down or stop working. We continue to work as hard as we can for our people. Merry Christmas. Thank you, Pro Tem.
Recognize the in lagi makihila. I don't know so the Hela Nana.
Shana, Delegate Freeland.
Is it still Delegate Mark Freeland, Eastern Navajo Agency.
Aho.
Champion Director.
Aho, good morning. Champion Mudbogger, hey. Good morning, Shananta, colleagues and staff. Good morning as well. I also wanted to give you my well wishes. All of the best to our staff. Thank you, staff. Thank you for everything that you all endured. I know you worked a lot. We know you worked a lot of late nights, sacrificed a lot of family time, and we're thankful for that. and we appreciate you so much. And just like what my brother said, Honorable Begay, such a professional level of staff that you are, and the 25th is very fortunate to inherit you. And we wish you all the very best to you and your families, and wish you, a great holiday season as well. I relied on some of you, and I appreciate your help tremendously. And, it's a great time of the year to be with family. So hope you get an opportunity to be with your families. I also like to thank my LDA, Mr. Ben Woody Jr. He went through a lot. He's gone through a lot. He's going through a lot in his family life as well as his professional life. And we did a lot together. And these last few years, and I always remember the oath that we took in January of 2019 at the stronghold in Fort Defiance. Little did we know what was awaiting us, Shanantai. Little did we know what monster was in the midst. And facing COVID the way we did, and for my area, we did as much as we could to help our people. And I'm thankful for that. I'll never forget this time of my life ever. I saw so much, I heard so much, I experienced so much. When you're a leader, you go to every length to help your people. And that's what we tried to do and help our people. We didn't stop. We didn't hide. Our concern was our people. And out here in Eastern Navajo, it's very remote and rural. And to hear the stories, to see how our people live was really eye-opening. And I'll never forget that. It's been the hardest time of my life. It was the hardest time of my life ever. And I've never worked so hard. And I'm tired. I'm mentally, physically, and spiritually drained. It's because of sacrifice and dedication that we made. 8 chapters is a lot. It's a lot of territory from here to Crown Point to south of Farmington and Bloomfield. And we did as much as we could to help our people during the pandemic. And, I wish a lot of people would have seen and heard what we did and how we helped our people. And I really thank my LDA for that, because we brought in resources from as far away as California. We partnered with the Kirtland Air Force Base from Albuquerque. We partnered with Rotarians from Albuquerque and Los Alamos. We partnered with 2 amazing nonprofits from Albuquerque. They brought us food, water, supplies, blankets, clothes, toys for our kids. And as leaders, you want to create partnerships and relationships that are everlasting. And we're so thankful for these relationships and partnerships that we created out here. I hope we made it an opportunity to make a difference in our people's lives. And, again, I just want to reiterate to everyone to please hold your family tight this holiday season. Think of all the families that are without loved ones. Think of all the lives that we lost. Think of all those who are recouping and recovering right now from COVID. Physical ailments that will forever challenge them. I have those in my area. And, I really am so thankful for you as my colleagues and as staff as well. And to my chapter officials, the 8 regional chapters, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the work that you did during the COVID. None of my chapters stepped down. They were answered the calling to help our people. And we did a lot. I really hope that the future of our Navajo Nation is prosper. It will be prosper, but it continues to address the basic need of infrastructure that's needed out there. People are waiting for water. People are waiting for electricity and bathrooms. And they deserve it, especially seeing what we did during COVID. And you know, myself, I'm fortunate because I'm going back to school. I'll be a student at the University of New Mexico again. I hope to get into law school. But I'm very fortunate, I'm very lucky, and I really want to use this opportunity to go back to school. So I'll be a college student again, Chantal. I wish you all the very best. Go Lobos. And always, always continue to pray for our people and our great Navajo Nation. Thank you, Shana.
Recognizing in Lagado. Congratulations on your acceptance to being a student again. Good luck and good prayers for you, Shannon. Don't forget to wear your brand new shoes on the first day of class. Not so no. Moving forward, item 3, review and adopt the agenda. Mr. Rico, staff, if you could read the agenda into the record for us, please.
Thank you, Chairman Henyo and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. This is the Naabik'íyáti Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council special meeting via telecommunication. Window Navajo Nation, Monday, December 19th, 2022. Proposed agenda. Presiding Chair, Honorable Adoso, Speaker, 24th Navajo Nation Council. 1, call meeting to order. Roll call invocation. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, review and adopt the journals. There are no journals. 5, receive reports, no reports. 6, old business A, legislation 0130-19. 7, new business A, legislation 0193-22. B, legislation 0227-22. C, legislation 0023-22. D, legislation 0240-22. E, legislation 0221-22. F, legislation 0231-22. G, legislation 0234-22. 8, close of meeting, announcements, adjournment. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rico, for reading the proposed agenda to the record for us. 24th Navajo Nation Council Naabik'íyáti Committee. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as read?
Motion, Halona.
Commissioner Delegate Pernell Halona, motion. Is there a second?
Second, Delegate Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay, second. So we do have a motion and second on the floor. Agenda Bawinta. Comments, questions on the proposed agenda? There's no comments.
Sure, Henyo.
Vice Chair Slater.
Thank you. I would like to ask if you could ask staff if the, I believe it's Utah ICWA legislation is ready or available for NABI consideration. I'm trying to find the number right now. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Slater. Mr. Rico, regarding the request to see if there's legislation that's ready for action at Naabik'íyáti.
Good morning, Chairman, and good morning, Vice Chair Slater. That legislation is actually, it's 0253-22, and it is still on the 5-day comment period. It is it will come off the 5-day on the 20th and is eligible for action on the 21st. Chairman Henyo.
Commissioner Kela, Mr. Rico. Shanda, Vice Chair Slater, it's still on the 5-day comment period and it won't come out till tomorrow and ready for action on Wednesday, the 21st. The agenda by Naho Kela on the main motion. Any comments, questions on the agenda? We'll call for the question to accept the agenda as read. We'll move forward to a roll call vote if there are no comments, questions. We'll call for the question. Leanne, if you would do a roll call vote to accept the agenda as read.
Beginning the vote with Honorable Elmer Begay.
I vote green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. did not vote. Honorable Paul Begay. Excuse me, Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote?
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote?
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote?
Delegate Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canez Bakrati, how do you vote?
Shadeja, this is Delegate Amber Canez Bakrati. I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canez Bakrati votes green. Honorable Seth Damon, how do you vote? Honorable Seth Damon. Honorable Seth Damon did not vote. Honorable Herman Daniels, how do you vote? Honorable Herman Daniels. Honorable Herman Daniels. Honorable Herman Daniels votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Pro Tem Speaker Jamie Henio is not voting. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Rick Nez, how do you vote?
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
Vote is.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Oh, that is not show.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So is excused. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., how do you vote? Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Edison Juanica, how do you vote? Honorable Edison Juanica.
Green.
Honorable Edison Juanica votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair did not vote. Going back up, Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Seth Damon, how do you vote? Honorable Seth Damon. Honorable Seth Damon is excused. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., how do you vote?
Thomas
Honorable-
Walker votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair did not vote. With that, Pro Tem Speaker, you have 18 delegates who voted in favor, 0 delegates who oppose, with Pro Tem Speaker Honorable Jamie Henio not voting.
Thank you for the roll call vote. 18 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. We have accepted our agenda for today. Before we move forward, Che, Daniel So, Chairman Daniel So, he's we're the only two two delegates inside the council chambers this morning, so we'll be here most of the day. Now moving forward to the next item, 4, review and adopt the journals. There's none. 5, receiving reports. There's none. 6, old business legislation 130-19. Adoshnanta Delegate Elmer P. Begay is sponsored, co-sponsored by Shananta Thomas Walker Jr., Vice Chair. But so they're both online. So with this, Manuel, if you would read the legislation into the record for us, or give us a background on the old business legislation.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. On February 13, 2020, legislation 0130-19 was referred back to the Law and Order Committee. That was a motion by Honorable Vice Chair Thomas Walker Jr., second by Honorable Madam Chair Amber Naabik'íyáti with a vote of 12 in favor, 0 opposed. And on September 29th, 2022, the legislation was referred back to Naabik'íyáti. And I'll go through the committee reports. There are committee reports from this is tracking number 0130-19, action relating to the Law and Order, Budget and Finance, Naabik'íyáti Committees and Navajo Nation Council, approving and adopting the Sehasan Delicon Justice Center Fund Expenditure Plan pursuant to 12 NNC Section 2501 to 2508. Legislation is sponsored by Honorable Elmer P. Begay and co-sponsored by Honorable Vice Chair Thomas Walker Jr. You do have committee reports from the Law and Order Committee that recommended do pass and referred to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. There is a committee report from the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee that has had under consideration a report saying that the recommendation that legislation 0130 pass with no amendment and no directive and referred to the Resource and Development Committee. There is a committee report from the Resource and Development Committee with a recommendation and do pass with the following amendment. Amendment number 1, page 3, line 20 and 21, section 3, paragraph B, as follows. B, existing language. B, the Navajo Nation hereby approves and adopts funding to the Delcon Chapter 4 overstrike $32,982,030 and insert new language _ $35,928,890. 2, page 4, line 5, section 4, paragraph 1 as follows. 1, the existing language Navajo Nation controller shall determine whether the source of the annual allocations from the total allocation of overstrike $32,982,980 and insert $35,928,890 will be citizen fund principal or income, or combination of both. 3, exchange the exhibit B, which has a total of $32,982,030 to a new exhibit B, which total is $35,928,890. Also attached with this is the budget form 1, budget form 2, budget form 4. There is a committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee that recommend do pass with no amendment. There is a committee report from the Naabik'íyáti Committee. The legislation was referred back to the Law and Order Committee. There is a committee report from the Law and Order Committee dated September 29, 2022. This has had it under consideration report saying the recommendation that it stay with Law and Order Committee. This legislation is tabled for 15 days until all documents pertaining to legislation, all required documents are be provided by the agent. The legislation stays with Law and Order Committee until task completed. In parentheses, per section 164, Navajo Nation Council and Committee Legislative Process, A11, a legislation that was tabled by a committee that with final approval over the matter shall remain with the committee until removed from table status. A legislation that was tabled by a committee without final approval authority over the matter shall move forward to subsequent assigned committee or Navajo Nation Council, and thereafter refer legislation 0130-19 to the Naabik'íyáti Committee. Chairman. Chairman, this legislation also moves on to the Navajo Nation Council.
Thank you, Mr. Rico, for the recap of this legislation. Therefore, we do have it back on our agenda this morning. So with this is referred back, it was not tabled. Therefore, Mr. Rico, excuse me?
We just need a motion and a second, Chairman.
To bring back up there. Okay. 24th Navajo Nation Council Naabik'íyáti Committee. Is there a motion?
Chair Pro Tem, a motion, Thomas Walker.
Vice Chair Thomas Walker motions. There's a second. We do have a motion on the floor for legislation 0130-19. Is there a second?
Delegate Rick Nez, second.
Chairman Rick Nez, second. We do have a motion, second on the floor. With that, we do have this legislation before us. So, Kudoya, with this, are there any questions from the budget Naabik'íyáti Committee on legislation 130-19?
Chair Haniel, this is Delegate Charles Newton. I do have a question.
Madam Chair, Charles Newton does have a question. So with this, I'll give the floor to Shananta Delegate Elmer P. Begay. You have 20 minutes to provide information on your legislation.
Members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, Bishmans on the Bishmans on the Finido, yet Disney, Adod, Shinado, Delphi Walker for co-sponsoring this legislation. I don't know what there's not I don't. I don't space ones. I'm not in though. Yeah, not this go. I don't motion or slide. I don't second or slide. You don't hear those. You know, down Rickness second in that. Yeah, though. But I think could all the yeah no can then you get other yeah go need that one need at all the go. I think the yeah then you get your work key to crack it. Yeah, so yeah, it's based on the honey little. Nachher da singo chi dong is bin ye alo ade ye ibe be di ade sa don ni so bin ye ade ye is bin ye ani ni yes lingo I would never cut over bin ye sin ade ye it is based on the ni ade iko ni jo ade yes lingo ye ka ki is okay to ko di bin ye ye da con justice center ho ya jo ade ye The Kushinache since 1985 and Nahaholis. The other day, Kaya is uncle in the Alcon chapter. Aloha. As we saw the kid at home, quite the end and can't quite we do all. But as the dean need to call even the super cut is what all I don't know that how to use. I don't know the dean needs so. Had then Carlson could all the initial this, and Spinner has answered it. Lay so how done the door that I had this other the other. I let the Halon Guido is quite okay. Halon do this. Even the had into this study need to go at the that case. Sweden long, sun and long. So I've never cared at the in that card and then he said, I think that's a castle this. The Kaya in the nature in the I don't think they are in other English to this. So I want to take his old car. No, that they so a other how he there yes, not there. Jake at home that how I down other quite other wind this uncle okay. He are be on the 10 equals from the another house as they go out. I don't know about Nash. In another yes, it actually is 100% documented out in this on the bolts and nuts. As it is that August needed double card, double cutlet, not incident, and it's hot, not teen in the I don't Dutch chance of Lincoln. What are the as it Naabik'íyáti, the hunter to hold the sugar. Out of the yard, Benina, I said so in it on the priority listing that needs on that either yard and the near had it or that none of the hit then no this year. Stand honestly, he had a state force, nothing, state legislature force, nothing. He had only cars what they claimed that he can't, they don't, those. So they state down other 3 million, then he can't know what's the income. She did us equally, I had equally done no, based on how this and Slinto, the next and the yes, I had Edo, I don't know, I had on the lead Ella. What are they done? No, that they I don't in Edo, which another is like $35,000 worth of it. Yeah, corridors and then again right away utility corridors and then even he cut it ja you know the answer could have what yeah on hub can that the was on the adult no and another last I did complete documents and then the on the this is a complete construction document so it's done on other. So we can run these utility corridors and then which would be the power line, the water line, the sewer line, and then the water line. Out on the gas line, he don't so it doesn't he can't know that the whole zero. There was a document. It long order though that your key actually we need a document that says, okay, from the BIA down no. We have a document which is there. I think there's a from the Operation Manix Construction Management has undergone the document he contract to go other in the this he architecture and then he person so as architect and then as he shared the this doesn't quite correct in dot list not so that it's so you and they so needs a letter from the BIA saying that this is a 99% complete document. It can be 100% if between 99% a water tank water tank could 100 document complete document obviously water tank for water sprinkler it's fire prevention even here in tot no it on us on the lite aji idea hot here on he don't need to go, but it's the whole document architecture. It was reviewed by the BIA. Then we talked to the Lord Grey Eyes. Then when he didn't the question that on the saying that BIA will not submit any document saying that we're going to be O&M but we're going to be responsible to know what later throughout the whole reservation. It be later because you ready, what are the kid is what if they do that, then he's not going to hold the circle. So we're other avenues that we're talking about is some people, a group of leadership through this Naabik'íyáti state force. We got to know some group of people, consultants and law. They say that they can lease this out the building base of you can lease it out. So therefore O&M so they're preparing some documents for us because they for O&M costs and has all that stuff. So it our community are looking into you can't do what costs it's Mr. Delegate Walker so I didn't he community because it's Southwest care in the area he came in the band see case I don't know what I did I can't so that's so the only handle that I don't know or that's also I don't case or this when case that we're working with the new medical center in downtown behavioral health which is now the cities all county the other that Winslow and Holbrook saying the unseen he said could you and then that could have to add me at the hello when he can't do I think what then he saw that's people he had a bouncy case when he that airport to die in the car since about the cargo I think they would have so I don't know other bis continent other this are another cast about the power that area about case easy been so it basically but I think Chair I have some agent that are on the line call I have Margie Borton and then I have Daryl Sam the architecture they're on the line and also Lorenzo Lee they're on the line so if we can have the Lord Grey Eyes on the line too. So if he adds about this article, Chair Henya. Thank you.
There's 9 minutes and 40 seconds left on the counter. So, Heidi Shields hat he call that person national da.
Chair Margie, are you on the line? Lorenzo Daryl, Sam, are you on the line?
Hello, this is Margie. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Nina, Annie, the Nasiniki Quag, that the house, she, the my dish keys, Kachini, Bashis chain, Lisland, that should shade out with Gene, the Chanel, Dyson, although Dilcon chapter manager, Asian on the Dick at 2016, October of 2016 at Naabik'íyáti. Project it's been in existence for quite a while before then. Officials on Linigi do other club members on Linigi do staff do other the Quishi community members on Linigi Bitlikine how nas nada deal nish did nada deal nish father I see a area, the whole entire southwest Navajo. We need protection. We need police presence out here. Ebony na abadini kahit bendil nisha kunza holjish ko hat ishina na den hat niniki adiki a benada dil nisha shon to ananali and he delegate Bigay he gave you the update on the current status of the project. We are in discussion with Kiva Institute. They're familiar with working on the leasing process with BIA, and they're willing to help us out. The services provided where the inmates will have in services at the facility along with their families. There's a program for that we've been looking into as well. We're really looking forward to getting another grant writer to help us with funding in terms of any services that are needed. Although our club members are still on needed, they completed a community-wide survey, and the public indicated on their survey, we discussed in a work session last week that their priority is public safety. We hope to help establish that by obtaining the funds to build this project. So we're asking you to please help us make the decision to fund the project with the CSIT, and we can move forward on their request. So this is actually a community-driven project. We've tried to work with the main offices, the main and community committee to assist us. However, it's been very limited, so we've been doing this on our own, and we've gotten very far, and we're all the resources that were able to come through and help us get to this point. So I appreciate your review today, and I hope for a positive outcome.
Appreciate you, Ms. Spartan, for your testimony here this morning. You have 5 minutes left.
I don't know, but Lorenzo Lee's on the line, the Texas president, and then also the Lord's Gray Eyes.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the line.
Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah, honest, 24 council, Masinigi, Arod, Manas, Entity, Nidolis. Dedi Tuliti, Soki, and Bashishi, Arove, like to the way in a shack on the dog con for the Eke, the Shachindo, Doctors, no Chalo, Arod, a speaker, both them, Ado, she honest, yeah, no, you could see Ban, but the idea in the did this husband read off based on any case for Justice Center, Justice Center. Yet, all ye go, yeah. You train out at the corner, dog Carnegie hospital, need yeah. The population is going to grow out of the traffic. It's increasing out of the whatever comes off that Interstate 40. Sometimes they roll right across, right through our hometown. What I don't know, in the preschool, I started and the high school before Aja. Aros Pirosani don't have any Kihollo. They don't go to the Edo Bahani in the hall. For a corner street lighter. That and then shade that then how corner public safety how to should now happen. Either a call around the response time part of hot on the holiday but law holiday takes him about 2 to 3 hours and a call we only have maybe a Christian for that assigned the Dell count according they're over 24-hour shift coverage they're kind of burnt out and then started one arrow that I don't get it takes them a while to get to Delcon, but not just Delcon. But then we got 9 other chapters from English to Central. I call a audit what they call the Delcon. I don't know this dispatch. Are you not? Are you people? Or traffic some of them a lot of serious accident that they have. I call ADG the I see I don't know. So you don't know yet. This is all this. The job in the case is the window could be at the counseling behavioral health, but I think it's even here. Yeah, they have it. That's all. Yeah, no need it. So what about package? I don't know. Only no state level content. There's new business coming in. I don't know. The AD a cracky had other law and order for loan of things. It could buy a case of or every about 9 over gave became just happy in the party. So a community dog container, like I said, there's 9 other chapters. The 7 regions of the Navajo Nation, a party. But all they asked they were honest to no can't say up there. They had all this.
Mr. Chapter President Lorenzo Lee. Ado, this Shinanda Delegate Amr PBG Ashikoda. You have 1 minute left on the board.
I should could do this. Shinanda I was saying yes. No, can't it? I can't let you 100 this. I don't. Other in Hutchinson, 24th Navigation Council, Kenton Bay. He does it. Do other resource development. Don't quite get if you don't have a lot of social the hospital land. He go in Chicago. Here, he did need to go. So the I don't see.
Honorable Brigadier Daryl Sam.
Okay, go ahead, Daryl.
Oh, Yate, Honorable Elmer Yate, Speaker and Chair Henry and Nesto Yate Shay Daryl Sam Shay Ki honest cover how much shin data that Nasha Oak Springs then as my chapter Shay Jim Sam his late council delegate Lena A out of Nasha. I'm the project manager for Parsons. A Department of Corrections Bondage initially help through the construction and planning and help the Division of Public Safety with all these facilities throughout the Navajo Nation.
Mr. Sam, hold on. Time's up.
Okay, I just want to let you know the plans are 100% for Delcon.
Mr. Sam, thank you for the quick brief. This Shinanda 24th Nomination Council Naabik'íyáti Committee on this legislation Kodoni Tato President Liliagi Shinanda Delegate Amr PBK a sponsor also there is a motion second on the floor. So this Shinanda, Madam Chair, Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Chair Henyo, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Can you hear me?
Oh, Huditsa.
Okay, thank you. So just as a recap to everyone, I will say that the Law and Order Committee did request to have this legislation stay at Law and Order Committee for various reasons. Number one is in terms of the operations and maintenance, no operations and maintenance funds have been identified for any of the public safety facility buildings. We do have the option of entering into a 105L lease. However, the president has not sent the letter as far as we know. He did say on the record that he did send a letter because BIA requires 2 steps to be filled. Number one is that the letter be sent by President Naz stating that the Navajo Nation is interested in entering into a 105L lease. Number two is that council has to pass a legislation stating that Navajo Nation will enter into a 105L lease. Neither of them have occurred. So at this point, the last update that we got last week from TIBIC is there are now 27 tribes that have entered into a 105L lease, and the funding is starting to dwindle. They did ask Navajo where the letter was at. Per BIA, they have yet to receive the letter. And I did on the record ask President Naz at fall session if he sent the letter. He said he did. I requested a copy of it. To date, it has not been sent. I was also informed by Dr. Gray Eyes that the letter was sent. However, she couldn't find a copy of the letter as well. So, and per BIA last week at the Tribal Interior Budget Council, Navajo has yet to send an official letter stating that they are interested in the 105L lease. And that is one of the biggest issues that we're running into right now is the operations and maintenance. We are also running into the issue of manpower. As was stated on the record by the presenter, officers get calls, but it takes several hours for them to respond. A lot of that is because of the shortage of manpower. We have been working on addressing the shortage of manpower this last year. And to be fair to everyone, we did start in 2019 with the Law and Order Committee and the Bureau of Indian Affairs Office of Justice Services. However, we had COVID hit the nation and hit the country, hit the world. So everything went on standstill. The 105L lease is an option at this point. And I did bring that issue up to the investment committee. Delcon is listed on the projects that we are trying to push to get funding for. And so was Kayenta, but Delegate Nathaniel Brown got his legislation through using Sihistan. And I made it very clear to the judicial branch that they are 100% responsible for operations and maintenance for the judicial branch, and they should not be coming to council for O&M costs. So they are aware of that. But the big thing that we run into is the operations and maintenance, as well as the manpower shortage that we're currently facing. As was stated, there is a concern about the potential, increase of crime that would be happening there within the Delcon area, and we know that to be true. All across the Navajo Nation, there has been an increase in crime. The number one, area that has seen an increase, the number one district is Window Rock. Window Rock is by far, does see a large number of crime. Per the data and the statistics that have been collected, Window Rock does receive 43,132 calls on average for assistance. And then Shiprock is next at 38,964, followed by Crown Point, Tuba City, Chinle, Kayenta, and then last being Delcon with 23,997. We do have the data and the statistics. I'm going to go ahead and send this out to to council, and I'm hoping to introduce this into the record, these data and these statistics, when we start talking about the need to improve or the need to amend Title 17. You'll start to see, and these are this is data that has been directly sent from from the police department, as well as the prosecutor's office, the court, criminal investigations. We did request several times to detention to send us their data, and I don't believe that they ever sent any data information that has been requested, but everyone else has sent us their information. We also got information on each of the districts and what the largest number of cases that are being heard within that district are. Currently, the Law and Order Committee did submit a request to have $247 million that we did present to the investment committee to request for funding. The hope was that we would get the funding to build these facilities across Navajo Nation, since we are seeing an increase in crime. But to date, the investment committee has stated that that this is not a good investment. And so we have been working to try to convince them otherwise, myself, as well as Chair Henyo and Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair, who both are on the investment committee. We have been working together with Dolores Gray Eyes to try to get information to the investment committee. But the biggest hang up right now is that the Navajo Nation does not have the funding for the operations and maintenance. What Law and Order Committee did state to DELCON is we would be making an amendment that 100% of operations and maintenance would be covered by the DELCON chapter. Or the other option is to have the chapters that are covered by the DELCON Police Department split the cost for operations and maintenance, because at this point, the Navajo Nation does not have funding, and we still have not entered into a lease agreement with the BIA. The lease agreement happens after the facility has been built. BIA does not approve anything in writing. However, they do tell us if a facility has been overbuilt. And at this point, we know that the Kayenta facility is currently in trouble legally with the federal government, and the Navajo Nation is on the hook for over $30 million for overbuilding the facility there. All of this information has been shared with council. All of this information, we have been having meetings at Law and Order Committee where everybody is welcome to take part. But I do need to let council know that at this time, because operations and maintenance is not, it's not part of the budget, it's very difficult to support this project. In addition to that, I know that the last report that we received was the manpower. The manpower, has been a problem across Navajo Nation. We have been trying to recruit officers to the police academy. Unfortunately, again, as we stated on the record at Law and Order Committee, the biggest hangup that we have with recruiting Navajo police officers is that many of our young Navajo people cannot pass the background check. And so we have been advocating to BIA to lower the age limit. Right now, in order to become or sign up to become a police officer, you have to be 21. And so we have been requesting to BIA and Office of Justice Services that they lower the age to 18, which will allow us to be able to recruit out from high school. And so we have been working with the police department on several issues. Again, I'll be sending out this booklet as soon as I'm done talking, which kind of shares with council what Law and Order Committee has been working on and what we have been trying to push through. But right now, again, it is very hard for us to support the DELCON project, only because we know that one of the biggest issues that we're facing right now is BIA scrutinizing our facilities. And we recently had a meeting with Parsons to try to come down on the size of the facility, because they're currently stating that they're not going to cover the operations and maintenance costs because it's the facility might be overbuilt. We did have a meeting with Parsons back in early part of November to talk about what BIA has been coming back and saying. And in this case, we did try to ask DELCON if they would be willing to come down on the size of their facility, but we were told no. And so at this point, our biggest concern right now is getting the approval through BIA to cover operations and maintenance. Operations and maintenance under the 105L lease, if approved, would cover around or close to 80%. Without the 105L lease, we can still get BIA to cover operations and maintenance, but that would only leave us at coverage at 40%. So there's a huge discrepancy in the way that BIA has come back to the Navajo Nation and to all tribes to say, this is how much we can cover for operations and maintenance. We have, through advocacy, been able to increase the amount that Congress has approved for the 105L lease. But again, that is something that we have been pushing for, and it requires the president to start moving forward. We, to date, again, I haven't received a copy of that letter, and per the Tribal Interior Budget Council 2 weeks ago, talking with the new BIA OJS director, they haven't received a letter from Navajo. So we really need that letter to go through. And at this point, I can't say with full certainty that Navajo would get the operations and maintenance costs covered, in addition to the rental that Delegate Elmer Begay was talking about. So that all comes after the facility is built, and that's when BIA comes in and inspects the building. And that's when they tell us at that point whether the facility, how much of the facility will be covered for rental, as well as how much of the facility will be covered for operations and maintenance. I know that there's a lot of moving parts going on right now with this project, as well as the judicial project that went through under Delegate Nathaniel Brown. But we have been tasked by all of you, by the 24th Navajo Nation Council. We were tasked, the Law and Order Committee was tasked to address these issues. And I feel like we did a really amazing job addressing these issues. But the biggest one that we're still facing right now is, how do we get these facilities replaced or built within the areas that do need public safety and justice, as well as getting our operations and maintenance covered. So again, we did request that this legislation stay at Law and Order Committee, and right now Investment Committee does not have a response back from us or back to us in terms of whether the $247 million that we are currently requesting, whether that is going to be approved, because we do have a bond of $175 million that has already been approved for Navajo Nation, but Investment Committee has to, they have to sign off on it and agree to it. And the biggest hiccup right now per the Investment Committee is the operations and maintenance, as well as the manpower. So with that, I know that there's a lot more to explain, and I do apologize to Delcon. I know that you guys are trying to push your project through, and I'm going to support it if you guys promise to cover 100% of the operations and maintenance costs of this facility. So that would mean it would have to come out of chapter funds. And the other thing is, we have been telling chapters that if you're going to do that, then you can't come back to council and ask for an increase in your chapter funds. This is part of that. This is part of the, I think, the push that was made by President Hale to try to, give local government power back to the people. And that includes the operations and maintenance, as well as what we're seeing right now with daycare, and then also the elderly facilities. Those are all under the chapter's funding. And so, again, the big thing that we're looking at right now is operations and maintenance. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Charles Newton, for your insight on the legislation that's before the committee. Going back to Shenandoah, Delegate Elmer PBK for response.
Yeah, Chairhenio, Naabik'íyáti, another called Charles Newton. We all know that I would say that this 105 process for O&M for justice centers, ADG, it law and order, the way I look at it right now is since 2017 the responsibility since January 2017 out of 2019. That's when we introduced this legislation. It's called it came up 105 a law and order to talk to the community. What are the right now? I think to tell the chapters in the community from law and order or just things that another on the telling the community to start taking care of your own O&M just so I would think that the council should be able to have what issues so it is but like I said, this is a community driven so community energy so to start off with this land it had added the so just like I said, all your down, we were told that that O&M how long letters not told them about. As we go along today, we found out that they'll do that to look at it again. But now the documents that we have, they reviewed it by the BIA, the architecture drawings again, to make it to meet their specification on jail facilities, detention facilities. So right now, I would say that there's no action I see from the law and order and then from the office of the president on this 105 process. I don't think that so we've been honoring that since 2007, 2009. So that law and order, okay. I'm not sure how if this law and order committee took this project for us to have a 105 process as other Kate National, but I'm not sure if I know that there was a feedback saying that Shiprock and Window so that's the reason why we started. So we were beginning to research more other tribal facilities with Lahaz Aga. Then we were told that there's some consultants they have that if a building is being built, they can start leasing it out to BIA. But they can help you out, but they have to give them some fee. They consultant work for you. So okay, maybe we can go that route. I thought if the BIA or Paco. They can just lease it out to maybe we haven't heard that from the law and order or the office of the president yet. But what and in there's some other tribal facilities with that's how they got their O&M costs. They So that's what we're looking at. So I think I have Margie to respond some of the questions that we have. Margie, I give you the floor.
Naabik'íyáti, good morning. Delegate Yeller is on the line for the information or for the record. Yeah.
Delegate Jimmy Yell here. Delegate Amr PVG, does that complete your response?
Oh.
Kushina, I don't up another just to
Oh, I was trying to get online. This is Margie.
Naabik'íyáti Committee. Is there any further questions, comments?
Can you hear us? This is for Delcon.
Pro Temp, Vice Chair Smith.
Vice Chair Smith, you have the floor.
Appreciate Pro Temp Chair Henio, the staff. I don't wish my son at the intent at the community. I don't wish out the snow sound. Classic. I need to deal with Nado, I need to me. Everyone's case. Honey, deal the Naabik'íyáti, for basement unable board. I do yard the community. We see Washington, I think so. Chicago, even the COVID-19 though cares that we see the meals so hardly now. Any high shape, because yeah, Masanako, winning and they can based on that day. Okay, there you have the cases indeed. Later, they'll conjure. Call. If you don't say that, they're not that thing. I just look at it, no. Can I dance? Okay. It's allowed to win that you know. What the hell is it? Because of your shoulder. It is that Sana with I painted the children in a Naabik'íyáti, that I see Pio. Not at the layer, a cardo, what so? Vanan and Vanan eats in very kid with it, not Adam of Senegi or Schmoder. Though it thought Edashi. Edachi, Cardo, Bakodanos indeed, shot self determination that you know. You see 638 that. Mr. Shorty, OMP doesn't that. Self determination. Odia, Ani Hiki in Big Zillow. Ebichi, Ako. BIH that 18. Kohana 638 na that date. Oh. There's going to be a time when they're going to say, Kada. Yeah, but out here. Ko. Kushina Hai. Because self determination. Biyahoka Ekad. Going to be your responsibility, then hit Tony. So I think we need to gear up for that. I don't know. Self-determination. Federal government. You got to be prepared. You got money. We can do that. There's even enough though. The Shenandoah's co-sponsoring one of the legislations too to make sure that the own example. So I'm in favor of this legislation. Well, not 2009 but a new administration, new council delegates when she found out to that case, when she found out at the meeting done so. Hey, what we had this either. There's no question in it. It's just we just need to vote on it and the bitch must Anya, he jail 1 o'clock. It's already almost 12 o'clock. We haven't even passed this legislation. Kushni case in the local. Well, that's not a beat. The here now, shouldn't that pro temp. Hey, what have this?
Chair Hanyo, this is Delegate Charles Newton. You can add me back to the queue.
The Vice Chair Smith, for your comments on this legislation, 130-19. So those are comments. So I'll defer back to committee members. I did hear Madam Chair Charles Newton to do follow up. So Shnanta, you have the floor.
It's Delegate Yell here. Yeah.
Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have the floor.
Thank you so much for that. And also the support. I'm glad that this support is there. I will be requesting an amendment to this legislation since the support is there. And since, as was stated on the record, that the money is there, then I think we can proceed forward with all of the projects for public safety and justice. So Chair Hanyo, I'm getting ready to send an email to Dana asking for an amendment for this legislation to include all of the projects for public safety and justice, and that's the total amount is $247 million, as was stated by Delegate Raymond Smith. The money is there, so I think that if that is going to be the thought of council, then why don't we just approve the $247 million for the entire Navajo Nation for all of the facilities to be built? So Dana, I'm going to go ahead and forward you that information for the amendment for the $247 million, and requesting that all of the public safety and justice facilities be built. I also forwarded you all the letter that was sent just today. It was just now sent to me by Mr. Rico, and it was a letter that was sent by Arbin Mitchell from the Office of the President and Vice President regarding that lease memo. So I'm glad that they're listening and they finally were able to send the letter. But I went ahead and I forwarded that to the 24th. So I think if we can approve the $247 million for all of the facilities, the Delcon is included in that. I think if we can approve all of that, then we can proceed to the next step, which is to pass legislation telling BIA that the Navajo Nation will proceed forward with the 105L lease. So just an FYI, Council, and then those listening online, I'm going to be forwarding that request right now to Dana for an amendment. Thank you.
Madam Chair Charles Newton, for your comments. 24th Nomination Council, Naabik'íyáti Committee. Any further questions, comments on legislation 130-19?
Delegate Yellow Hair.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Delegate Jimmy Yellow Hair, you were in the queue. Ade Nahaljish.
Oh, yeah, Pro Temp Speaker, yeah, good morning. Merry Christmas to each one of you, 24 councilmen. But legislation 0130-19. About 3 about this so he could about legislation so the Nepan Radel Conda Africa was not judicial match Manifadeliana with my brother councilman Mr. T.L. Decay from many forms. I people that other cool KDA just speak on some cases of these. Delcon is far behind and any of the portion the natural findings in Oswa. So that's just a team of Rajanalo, opinion area. We need a court, but with this particular legislation, DDA supports, the sponsor on the PVK and also co-sponsor. So that also the kids are going to get about this, Anderson. كنت تهانسس كيش ما سمصن إيدو سجاس هذا إني نغالي teacher person شما Gina Charles Noon. Yeah, behind the for that $247 million. Should I got a husband who ate a settle this Nabantas Kitchen, Shmayash. It's a 8 or Taro, baseball thought that the Nelson. Today, I didn't bona from Yahiga. There was this only 8 settle the theater, but also she's on speaker. The new speaker creation the 2026 on Yahiga speaker. I don't the Navajo Nation President Yahiga administration will come in. I don't the Jan Chief Justice, she's still there. Question is IAD Banyati on this. Piloti wasn't done, but like I said, he judicial administration does attention to that. The district court just say Snake but they liana the Cuba City to Crown Point. It does speaker late on not on in Linda Kelsey Piquet. I don't the speaker. I don't he not on in Linda at TPK. To the officers that the chaos state after Robert Yard a Chief Justice no. We work team with the Liana Yeko. Because in the Washington, I see that kid. Dr. Gray Eyes, they don't turn. But under the public safety, though, it's not on she, the Liana. The Asabas, she's not on she collaboration. The Tingy. The Liana Johnson, Shemayaja. I want to see Bo Duncan, what plan he has for the people, what is Nifnina Star. If other engine or not I wasn't Dominic at all. If be everything that she die. Look what the adults are with this administration she had. Armo, Mr. Nance, adults, she's not stuff. She's not, she about if we work that way, we work with BIA and all the way up to federal OMB office to bring this as serious and the tensions that we need in Navajo Nation. So it's on hand, so okay, there's this Ashmaya. I asked not only Anishan, and let's give it to a new administration. We like to use federal funding. I think you could upon it. I suppose I thought of this out. She created about James, my Amber Crowd, my other. It over now, that's not it. Okay, I joke is not understood. New administration with another, not only I zero that they laid all it. Yeah, I cry it over nice to condole. Once on you have zero that was all. Yeah, it's one of you and Happy New Year. We're looking for a new year, so that's it for me. To the pro temp, Henio. Thank you.
Gashina here also for your comments, and Delegate Jimmy O'Hare. Nana. Any more comments, questions for on legislation 130-19? Then mostly there were comments toward this legislation, no questions directly for the presenter. So with this, let's move forward to a roll call vote if there are no further questions, comments.
Beginning the vote with Honorable Elmer Begay.
I vote green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr., how do you vote? Honorable Key Allen Begay. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. did not vote. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay did not vote. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote?
I vote red.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes red. Honorable Amber Kines Bakrati, how do you vote? Honorable Amber Kines Bakrati votes green via text. Honorable Seth Damon is excused. Honorable Herman Daniels, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Herman Daniels votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote? Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Pernell Halona did not vote. Honorable Pro Tem Speaker Jamie Henio is not voting, excuse me. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez, how do you vote?
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater, how do you vote?
Red.
Honorable Carl Slater votes red. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
Okay. Good morning. I talked to Mr.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
That wasn't me talking.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr., how do you vote? Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So, how do you vote? Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So, how do you vote? Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So is excused. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., how do you vote?
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Juanica, how do you vote? Honorable Edison Juanica votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
Delegate Yellowhair votes green for this legislation.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. And going back up, Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr., how do you vote? Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green via text. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Paul Begay votes green via text. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote?
Votes red.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes red. Honorable Charlene So, how do you vote? Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. With that, Pro Tem Speaker, you have 15 delegates who voted in favor, 3 delegates who oppose, with Pro Tem Speaker Honorable Jamie Henio not voting.
Legislation 130-19. 15 in favor, 3 opposed, chair not voting. This legislation moves on to Navajo Nation Council. Old business new business by Nahol Shakudo. DA Yabez Ani 193-22. Kodoni Tatanan sponsor Speaker Odoso is excused today, but there is a co-sponsor. Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton is a co-sponsor. So with this, Manuel, if you read the legislation into the record for us, please.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the 24th Navigation Council Naabik'íyáti Committee, tracking number 0193-22, an act relating to the Law and Order, Budget and Finance and Naabik'íyáti Committees and Navajo Nation Council, amending 12 NNC Section 820N to change the lapse of certain appropriations. This legislation is sponsored by Honorable Speaker Otto So and co-sponsored by Honorable Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. You do have committee reports from the Law and Order Committee that recommend a do pass with no amendment and refer to the Budget and Finance Committee. There is a committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee that recommend a do pass without amendment and refer to the Naabik'íyáti Committee. This legislation moves on to the Navajo Nation Council. Chairman.
Thank you for the reading of the legislation to the record. With this, Navajo Nation Naabik'íyáti Committee, is there a motion? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Delegate Jimmy Gallagher. Is there a second?
Sure.
Delegate Wilson Stewart Jr. Motion second. We do have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any questions on this legislation as it moves on to Navajo Nation Council? Are there any questions going once? Are there any questions going twice? Denita, third and final call for questions or comments. Delegate Elmer PVG has a question, so therefore, Delegate Madam Chair, Eugenia Charles Newton, you have 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Hold on. Delegate Elmer PVG.
Yeah, I thought there was a second say there.
Oh, I don't second, yeah.
Yeah, so I was on mute and trying to get on it turned on. So
okay. No question, yeah. No questions.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah,
no question.
With that, let's do a roll call vote. Legislation 193-22.
Beginning the vote with Honorable Elmer Begay. How do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. How do you vote? Honorable,
thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote?
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote? Honorable
I vote
Eugenia,
green. This is Delegate Charles Newton.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Knez Bakrati and Honorable Seth Damon are excused. Honorable Herman Daniels, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Herman Daniels votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote? Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Pernell Halona did not vote. Presiding Chair, Honorable Jamie Henio is not voting. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James.
Delegate Jam votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez, how do you vote?
Delegate Ricknez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
Vote please.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So, how do you vote? Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So, how do you vote? Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Vote please. Vote here.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So is excused. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., how do you vote?
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Wanika votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote?
Delegate Yellowhair votes green.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up, Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote?
One votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Charlene So, how do you vote? Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. With that, Pro Tem Chair, you have 17 delegates who voted in favor, 0 delegates who opposed, with Pro Tem Speaker Honorable Jamie Henio not voting.
Roll call vote 17 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Legislation 193-22 moves on to the Navajo Nation Council. Naso Nana legislation 227-22. Madam Chair, Eugenia Charles Newton sponsoring it. Therefore, Mr. Rico, if you could read legislation to the record for us, please.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, tracking number 0227-22, an action relating to the Resource and Development Naabik'íyáti Committee's Navajo Nation Council, adopting the latest International Building Code ICC's 2021 International Building Code as applicable to commercial and government buildings constructed by the Navajo Nation government and its entities and political subdivisions. This legislation is sponsored by Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. You do have a committee report from the Resource and Development Committee that recommend it do pass with one amendment. Amendment number 1, page 5, line 18, insert new section 4 as follows. New section 4, overstrike effective date, and insert exemptions or overstrike effective date. New paragraph. This resolution adopting the latest International Building Code for construction of commercial and government buildings by the Navajo Nation government and its entities and political subdivisions shall not be applicable to Navajo traditional buildings such as hogans, shade houses, tache, sweat houses, other such dwellings and Navajo ceremonial structures. End of new language. 2, renumber reletters the previous succeeding paragraph, section and exhibits as necessary and appropriate. The Office of Legislative Services and the Office of Legislative Counsel are hereby authorized to make technical edits to this legislation and its exhibits to implement the Council's intent in approving this legislation. This amendment shall supersede inconsistent language contained in any other committee or council amendment, which language shall be conformed to the intent or language of this amendment. The legislation was referred to the Navajo Nation Council. This legislation moves on to the Navajo Nation Council. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rico, for the reading of the legislation to the record. Is there a motion, Naabik'íyáti Committee?
Delegate Yellowhair, motion.
Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair, motion. Legislation 10227-22. Is there a second? We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Hold on a second.
Motion by Delegate Purnell. Hello, so we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any questions on legislation 227-22?
Delegate Daniel too.
Chairman Daniel Suche. I did this kid. So, Madam Chair, Charles Newton, you have the floor to introduce your legislation to the Naabik'íyáti Committee.
Chair Hanyo, can you hear me?
Oh, Haditha.
Okay. Good morning, committee members, colleagues. I do present before you at this time 0227-22, which is adopting the latest international building code, which sets the minimum standards for our commercial and government buildings that are constructed by the Navajo Nation government and its entities and its political subdivisions. Currently, we do not, on the Navajo Nation, I will repeat, we do not have a minimum standard for our building codes, which means that every month when we invite our Navajo people to take part in our chapter meetings, we're inviting them into a building that has not been certified as being safe, nor are we inspecting the buildings and signing our names to them saying that they meet the minimum code requirements. This legislation is only for commercial and government buildings and does not include homes. It does not include the homes that are being built, and it doesn't include the homes that are being lived in at the moment. However, that is something I think that the 25th Navajo Nation Council will have to discuss. In terms of this legislation, this particular legislation that is before you, I will state that there has been some who have come out to say that our enterprises have not been informed. And my understanding is that Navajo Nation Council sets the laws and the standards that our enterprises should be abiding by. We do have many of our construction workers, our plumbers, our electricians, who do follow very similar codes when they work off the Navajo Nation and ensuring that the buildings that they are building is safe for occupancy. However, again, on the Navajo Nation, we don't have that. And part of the issue that we are facing right now in terms of disability is that many of our buildings are not ADA compliant. And that goes back to the code. Because there is no minimum code that has been adopted by the Navajo Nation, there is nothing in place that says that when a new building is built that it has to abide by the ADA laws. And the purpose of passing this legislation is so that we can get a better understanding of the buildings that are out there, those that should be condemned, meaning those that are not suited for occupancy, those that we should not be, we shouldn't be allowing our Navajo people to enter, including our chapter houses, which is really scary because when I asked that question, I don't believe our chapter houses have a minimum code requirement that they were built on. And I know that, when we send grandma and grandpa or mom and dad to chapter meetings, we're kind of expecting the buildings to be safe, that they're not going to crumble. But we don't know at this point because there's no minimum code that was adopted when those buildings were built, as well as the new buildings that are going up at the moment. Right now, our buildings, when they are built, they go through, I guess it's the architect or possibly even, the engineers who are building the building that set the code. But there's no minimum code that makes it very difficult and makes it hard for us as Navajo legislators to tell people that the buildings that they're entering are safe. I used the example when I presented this legislation at RDC that like maybe a year and a half ago, there was the building that collapsed in Florida. It was an apartment complex. Everybody was sleeping and that building suddenly collapsed. And so now there's investigations that are going on that building. One of those investigations is whether the building was safe for occupancy. We see off the Navajo Nation, we see when we enter into buildings, there's usually a thing, like a little card that we see inside of elevators. Sometimes we see them outside of buildings that says that this building has been inspected by, and it gives you the code inspector's number, and it tells people, the community, or people who are entering that building that building has been inspected and it meets the minimum requirements set forth by law. Again, the Navajo Nation doesn't have that. We've never had that. And so there's a question of how many of our buildings currently on the Navajo Nation are safe with the standards that we put in place for those who are building on the nation. This legislation does go into effect. I believe it is 180 days after it's signed into law by the president. So it is going to take some, it's going to take some time to get it through. But I will say that many of the projects that have ARPA money will probably be affected by this legislation. Not affected in that it's going to be, I don't think it'll be a negative effect. I think if anything, we can start to say that our buildings are safe. I do have my agent on the line, Mr. Tooley. Chair Henyo, if you could recognize Mr. Tooley as my agent with the time remaining. Mr. Tooley?
Yes, Mr. Earl Tooley. Is he on the line today? Mr. Tooley? Madam Chair, he's not responding. I don't see him on the board too.
Okay, that's fine. I should also state that this legislation, it's not going to affect the prior buildings that are not up to date. That's probably going to take a separate legislation where we will require, buildings be brought up to code. And that's a separate legislation, a separate debate. At this point, what we are trying to do is we're trying to be proactive. And that we're trying to adopt this code, and it sets the minimum standards. Again, I will repeat, it sets a minimum standard for buildings, commercial buildings, government buildings that will be built on the Navajo Nation. If other enterprises or businesses, want to make their code a little bit more stringent, that will be up to them. All we're doing today is adopting a minimum standard code, a building code for our commercial buildings, and then also for our government buildings. And this will go into effect 180 days after this legislation is signed into law. So at this time, all the information is before you and is attached to the legislation. It just gives you some information. And again, I will make it very clear that this legislation, it does not apply to homes, and it doesn't apply to hogans. It doesn't apply to anything that is not considered a commercial building or a government building. And I truly believe that this legislation is in the best interest of the Navajo Nation and, the health and safety and the welfare of the Navajo people, and especially those who are coming into the facilities on the Navajo Nation. So with that, I do stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, for your presentation. 24th Navajo Nation Council Naabik'íyáti Committee. Chairman Daniel So, ada nahaljish. Dina Gushina Kaba.
Actually, I had last Chair Pro Tem for today's Naabik'íyáti committee meeting. Addison and I, Craggy, Lachni Gleniki, Otto, Madam Chair Charles Newton. My question is relative to, and I pose this for legal clarification to Chief Legislative Counsel, respective of Navajo Nation funds going to build individual homes. Will they be considered governmental buildings? Or where there's bathroom additions added to existing homes, will those then be required to meet this proposed building code? That would be my question to Legislative Counsel. And depending on the answer, I may offer an amendment. Thank you.
Chairman Daniel So, the Naabik'íyáti to Naabik'íyáti Chief Legislative Counsel, Ms. Dana Barboff, or staff. So, Ms. Barboff.
Thank you. Good morning. This is Dana Barboff, Chief Legislative Counsel. The answer to Chairman Stowe's question is no. Houses built by the government would not be subject to these building codes. The building codes follow the character of the building, not the funding source. So if it is a house, a home, in addition to a house or home, that it is residential. And so this building code would not apply. It only applies to non-residential buildings. Back to you, Speaker Pro Tem.
Dana, for your response. I believe there is a follow-up question. Chairman So?
Okay, so that brings me to the thought on the amendment that was added at RDC. Those are not commercial buildings, and they're more than likely not really for full-time occupancy. The Chash Oto Huan Maza, and there was other items on the amendment. So that's what causes me to ask the question. Because I realize those are not commercial buildings. And in some aspects, they're used for ceremonial purposes and for just family gatherings. So that's why I'm questioning that particular amendment, because I see that that particular amendment, the way that it was explained by Chief Legislative Counsel, it does not apply to this proposed international building code. Thank you.
Chairman Daniel So. Those like Naabik'íyáti committee, any further questions, comments?
Chair, I have a question.
Vice Chair Slater.
Thank you. My question is, will this also apply to townships and other subdivisions of the Navajo Nation? Like, will it supersede their authority to enact building codes for like Kanta or Tuba City, et cetera? And then second, in developing this legislation, what sort of review was done on other statewide building codes that exist? Because I think in the state of Arizona, there isn't a statewide building code ordinarily that's left up to local jurisdictions like a town or a city or a county. And then how were these building codes arrived at? Is this the 2018 ICC building code? Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Slater. I'll defer back to Madam Chair Charles in for a response to the questions posed by Vice Chair Slater and Chairman Daniel. So,
thank you, Chair Hanyo, and thank you, colleagues, for the question. To Chair Daniel, so in terms of the amendment that was made at RDC, I honestly don't know why the amendment was made. When we presented, we did tell them that it was commercial buildings and that it was government buildings, but there seemed to be some confusion because we were going around in circles about homes. And then I know that there was questions about how do the enterprises feel about this legislation. So I don't know why that part of the amendment was included when my understanding, and if you Google what a commercial building is, and it's basically where a building, it's a building where commercial activity takes place, which includes like office buildings, retail space, warehouses, and in this case would also be chapter houses. And this differs from commercial property. Which is, kind of, I guess maybe like apartment complexes or multifamily buildings. So it's not commercial property that we're trying to create this code for. It's for commercial buildings and government buildings, buildings where basically we invite the public to come in as we continue to do work on behalf of the Navajo Nation, but also where there's commercial activity that's taking place, so where money transaction is taking place, or anything along those lines. So in all honesty, I don't know why that amendment was made when it clearly states in the legislation that this is only for commercial buildings and government buildings. In terms of Delegate Carl Slater's question, so the states, we didn't do like a 50-state survey, if that's what you're asking, but we did look to see, we did reach out to the various, various companies that do work with the nation, and we did ask them, if when they're not working for the nation, they're working off the nation, are there codes that they have to abide by? And the answer is yes. That even within the trade itself, that there are minimum code requirements that are set in place for even the trades. So if you're an electrician, there's a requirement that you have to follow within your trade. So the codes basically that are adopted by the state. Some of them adopt the uniform code, which is what we're doing here today, and some of them create their own codes. And they have they have laws in place that do set the standard. So again, we didn't do a 50-state survey. We just went in and also working with General Services. So that was Mr. Tooley, who I did call as my agent, and I don't know why he's not on the line. I did text him. But he's also with General Services, and he also had explained the importance of this code and what it means to the Navajo people, what it means to the Navajo Nation. Right now, I know that both Delegate Eugene So and I have been pushing, to get the rights recognized from for the ADA community, the Americans with Disability. And part of that right is understanding, where we stand with our buildings. There is currently a process going on with General Services where they are taking a full inventory of every Navajo Nation building. And then they're trying to inventory how many of those buildings are meeting ADA compliance. We know that on the nation that many of these ADA laws are not being complied with. A perfect example is the fairgrounds. We just got done with fairs on the Navajo Nation, and we know that that our fairs are not ADA compliant. Yet we host fairs every year. Our chapter houses, many of them are not paved, and making it very difficult for people who have disabilities, to get to chapter meetings or to take part in these types of government. I'm sorry, somebody is speaking, Chair Henyo.
Go ahead, David, muted.
Okay, thank you. So to answer your question, Delegate Slater, we didn't do a 50-state survey. We just we did speak to General Services, and we spoke to tradesmen, and we also spoke to other businesses that do business with the Navajo Nation. And that's how I know that we don't have currently a minimum code or a minimum requirement for building buildings on the nation. And then in terms of your other question about whether it would apply to, to, I guess, townships, my understanding is that Kayenta Township, they already adopted the building code. They also adopted other types of codes. So I think maybe our township, our Kayenta Township, is maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead of the Navajo Nation, and that they are making that a requirement within their community as a township. And so with Navajo Nation, we really need to start passing laws that are proactive. The last thing, I worry because after learning about, these codes, I honestly worry about entering a building and wondering if that building is safe for me to enter, or if it's safe for me to take my mom into. We know that the federal buildings like IHS or, even schools, they do have, they do adopt a certain code to ensure some safety. But I would be curious to do a survey, a 110 chapter survey, to find out how many chapters are meeting, if this code is passed, how many of them are meeting that minimum requirement. I'd also be curious to see how many of our Navajo Nation buildings meet this minimum requirement, as well as the businesses and enterprises as well. So right now we cannot do any type of survey again because there's no minimum code that has been adopted. And to me, that's a scary thought, especially since we are inviting many people, to come into these buildings to do businesses. So I hope that answers your question. I know that, again, I do have Mr. Marcus Tooley, who is my agent. And so I don't know if he is on the line at this time, Mr. Tooley.
Madam Chair, I still don't see him on the board.
Okay, I text him again. It looks like he is in Pinyon, and he said that he doesn't have very good cell reception, but he was able to text me. So with that, committee members, colleagues, I do stand for questions. Thank you.
Madam Chair Charleston. This going back to 24th Navajo Nation Council Naabik'íyáti Committee. Are there any further questions, comments?
Eugene.
Delegate Eugene So Naholji. Delegate Eugene So.
Okay, oh no, this get, I think it's a typo or maybe not. Ikwebakagi, the heading, Navy line 14, International Building Code, Baka, ICC, Baka, Isha, IBC. In regards to the page 3, equal to line 10, 2, 3, page 3 of 5. Number 1, the case is International Building Code, IBC. And then up here at 6969, ICC, Naabik'íyáti, the International Code, the Council. Because so, it all on this case, I should hold on. Just a comment. If a building is being built, does the contractor abide by these laws? I should not, because because no, if it's already is there, if we hire contractor that builds, with this abiding by all these laws, international codes, it does that handle the shield, it does on handle the it's been a net combination. So you could ADA quite good example of good example. No, I thought what she was going to say, the chambers. You can't get in from the east side. Just with a wheelchair. You want this case of that. Generate neck as you go because on key on RJ who want that needing the skida. Or clearance at the long and Hatashi data he passed a lot. Got now on the skida there was our code at the internet fundamental law. But we on the Navajo Nation, we built a lot of buildings out there that a lot of senior citizens too, where our senior goes when they reach of age, they can't take care of themselves if they're being cared there. But it's going to some like Chinle is open to the south, east, southwest, something like that. I don't know. So anyway, I saw another. What are you about this case? Eight that's about all the shit and never I should be has on it. That's about time. Well, yeah, but instead, if we're going to go that route, it's going to be a different legislation to include another whole way of how we build houses and etc. The RJ Asati, that Lana Stall, Italy, RJ. That's something to think about. Should say Eugenia. Kala is at the sin. But it's like how do you call asked what all I don't know the law one be in Casa. The hot and we could how cross the Yandi. It's been now that it's thought better or so sometimes not closed, it's closed on the east side of the chambers. We had to go from the south side or the north side. Then go back out that way again. And we have a kiddo out of Casa. So I think those are some of the regulations that should be abided by with regards to the fundamental law. Issuing not a bond for case of 25th Navajo Nation Council. Oh yeah, quite all be had this baby cases or in order to I think we're going to sue somebody and then try to see that all the way. In Hatten hit don't you should be as any Hatten hit on the Anand of Mr. Chetzago. Okay, so it also can be litigated with our folks that might get hurt in one of these buildings. Thank you, Chair.
Eugene So, don't I think Kitty. Do you have a follow-up? Chairman Daniel So?
Okay, figured it out. Hey, Chair Pro Tem, Madam Chair, mostly, with respect to one that was made at RDC, with the clarification, legislative council, I would really like to have consider that amendment. So I would propose a motion to amend. I would motion to delete Amendment 1 from the legislation because it is more of a for dwellings that are listed only with respect to the commercial that are referenced. Okay, I would motion delete Amendment 1 that was included from RDC. That would be my motion, Chair. Go ahead.
Chairman Daniel So, if I recognize your motion, I think the best course would be is to notify Chief Legislative Council so they would be able to provide a written amendment for you, Shananta. Though we're able to display it on the board for the rest of the delegates to see and make an informed decision on it. So, Ms. Barboff.
Thank you, Chairman Hino and delegates. So we will get that amendment prepared, and hopefully I'll have it out in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barboff. So I'll be here, Chairman. So if you until the amendment's written up for you.
Hello, Chair. I guess to give notice to all the delegates, I would reconsider my motion and would place it at the Navajo Nation Council meeting. So,
Chairman, so that recommendation is to get it ready for Navajo Nation Council when it comes on the agenda. So Dana, you do have some time to work with Chairman So on this?
Yes, I will get that ready for delegates So at the council session. Thank you.
With respect to Delegate Eugene So's question, I'll defer back to Madam Chair Charles Newton. You have the floor.
Thank you for that, Chair Hanyo. So I only heard one question coming out of Delegate Eugene So, and I know that there was a lot of comments that he made in terms of the question that he was asking. Do the contractors abide by these codes is what I wrote down. So right now, Delegate Eugene So, there is no code right now on the Navajo Nation. What the contractors abide by sometimes, and again, this is going to require getting, I guess, a survey together to ask that question. What code did you follow when you built the building? Part of adopting the building code is it sets a minimum standard for, I guess, maybe for architects, to be able to build their, to build a building, architects and those, those in construction, to build a safe, a resilient building, that is going to be sustainable and then affordable as well. But I think the big thing is that, you know, these codes are gonna provide some measure of safety. You know, it's gonna, I guess in a way, sometimes these buildings are supposed to be designed to reduce casualty in the event that a building were to collapse, or if a building were to catch on fire. These codes would say that it meets a minimum standard, and this is how it would reduce casualty. These codes also, reduce costs, and then, but like I said, most importantly is, they're supposed to withstand, I guess, the damages for buildings, to withstand during a disaster. So in California, there's earthquakes that happen. So those buildings, they have to at least, reduce some casualty, and then, be able to withstand, maybe up to a certain strength of, the earthquake. And, the same thing with winds. We have strong winds here on the Navajo Nation. And I know that, sometimes we see, we see pictures on the news where buildings like the tops, they come down. Every building across the nation is built differently to withstand, the disasters in that area, whether it's a tornado. I know when I lived in Kansas, a lot of the buildings there, had, tornado shelters. Then when we lived in Tucson, most of those, buildings were, withstood the heat, the sun coming directly at the buildings. They all differ, they all vary. But right now we don't have any codes that say that this is the minimum standard. So we don't know at this point, what contractors were using when they did build these buildings, or even now what architects are using to design these buildings. And then in terms of the ICC and IBC, so the ICC Shija is the International Code Council, and that was created in 1994. And they are, I guess, kind of like they're the private, gosh, how would you say it? They're the organization that accepts the different types of codes. So right now, there's several codes. There's residential codes, there's fire codes, there's plumbing codes, there's mechanical codes. You can see a listing of all of the codes that the International Code Council has within their code. It's on page 3 of 5 of the legislation. So the IBC is only one of those codes. It's a building code, and that's what we're trying to adopt. But as you can see, there's like 14 other types of codes. And it would probably be a question of whether the Navajo Nation should adopt these 14, whether we should have a residential code, whether we should have a fire code, whether we should have an existing building code, a property maintenance code. That's going to require council adopting these codes. But at this point, what we're trying to do is we're trying to adopt the building code. And again, this will go into effect 180 days after it's signed into law by President Nez. Then any new building, commercial building, or any, government building is going to be subject to these minimum requirements when building these buildings on the nation for Navajo people. So I hope I was able to answer all of the questions that have been posed to me regarding this building code. And I don't know if my agent is also still, if he got onto the line, but I'll call him, Chair Hanyo, if you don't mind, I can call him one more time. Mr. Tooley, are you on the line?
Madam Chair, I still see him on the board here.
Okay, that's fine then. Thank you, and I do stand for questions.
Kushina, the other question was the ICC and IBC, so therefore I did get clarification from Mr. Rico. So Mr. Rico, on the question that Delegate Eugene So had regarding ICC and then IBC and so forth.
Thank you, Chairman. In regards to Honorable So's question, he was mentioning or he was asking if the references to International Code Council, ICC, was correct. That is correct. That is this referencing the council, the group that put these codes together, and then below it on paragraph D on page 3 is just a list of all the different codes. So, but the ICC is the entity or the group that put these together. So it did, the legislation is correct, Chairman.
Akashine Kela, thank you for the response and helping us out here. With this, and then back to it is 12:07 p.m. and any further questions, comments on legislation 227-22? I'm sorry.
Question.
It's 227. Vice Chair Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, thank you. A real quick question on behalf of this legislation. I know that the 23rd Council, commercial buildings. Oh, you make buildings the whole call the letter C Leo Kalene or the building built it called minimum requirements so born it's on it be got doesn't need it but don't need it. Or the and I know that the chambers is a historical building, so Kushina Haida building is 1930 that's all your buildings are just throughout Navajo Nation with that any commercial buildings called let us see clear what on English kid should I don't know Pro-temp Speaker.
Kashina Kela, Shinada, Vice Chair Smith, your questions. I defer back to Shinada, Madam Chair Charleson.
I apologize, Chair Henyo. I kind of got the tail end of that question. Can Delegate Raymond Smith ask that question again? I do apologize. I'm not sure if other people are having issues with hearing. I could barely hear Daniel So when he was speaking, and the same thing happened with Delegate Raymond Smith. So can you repeat that again, Delegate Smith? I do apologize.
Vice Chair
Madam
Smith,
Delegate.
you have the floor. Vice Chair Smith, for your question to repeat.
Oh, Udita.
Nida educated here, you have I only does it so the fish was on the battle so because the letter C clear on the president Bridget Kaila. This is one day building that area also started to cut. It doesn't meet the minimum qualifications. It's an educate. Kayla.
She can, Vice Chair Smith. Defer back to Madam Chair Charleson.
Oh, yeah, thank you for asking that question, Delegate Smith. Legislation BACA, it does state that this would go into effect for those buildings that are built 180 days after, and it would not affect the existing buildings. If you look on page 3 of 5, there is a code for existing buildings. However, this legislation does not cover the existing buildings. Again, it would probably require a survey to be done on all of the buildings on the Navajo Nation to see how many of the buildings owned by the Navajo Nation or where Navajo Nation funds were used to build actually meet a minimum requirement as set forth by, in this case, if we did adopt the building code, but that would probably be a separate legislation in the event that council does want to know, what is going on with the existing buildings. But I'm going to try one more time, and if my agent doesn't answer, then I'll just stop asking. If he's on the line, Chair Henyo, I believe that my agent might be best equipped to answer that question. Mr. Tooley.
Okay, Mr. Earl Tooley, are you on the line?
This is Marcus Tooley, same family. But
Mr. Marcus Tooley, go ahead.
thank you, Potent Speaker Dole, Otto, members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Otto, quite night that Kidi, Khalid Ela, Khalid Abayas, Kitnigi, 80, building code, Bawin, Inigi, 80, says Atoha Kaigi, 80, Yisibanate, Dopen Nachi Dopen Yehegi, Ya Hokin, Adal Yegi, Bikehodo Lehide, Yisef, Bakait. As you know, that the Navajo Nation owns several buildings, and they purchased several buildings, and each of them probably have varying and different codes applied to them. So the purpose of this legislation is to establish standards. So aid ate his ego, chota he not nelo his ego. Adiki bikehodolisi bikehodon nesto bikehodolisi adi banate ego. Ado kent I da sa ango. Edo bawin ido. Dik ato shesh ha kahiki. Ato bida the nishigi edeya. Ado bikehon dodge ahiki tikwe has ani bakati ta instead of a 2x4, it now requires a 2x6 without making any shortcuts to it. Ado nana sto ni spouse and sto ya these twido sani in that tingo saho o the bike. Kashit what's no di benna. Digi ado behatiliado ado o that el car hatnini ya kwegi adigi benna ad which ato lehigi hota a panete ko ni spauso NHA da sa bikeho the enish ade a Washington de research ed ad international building codes. They know all the building codes. You get one. None on the Division of Community Development. None. Ajato Sahawan. So, Asia Haike Hos although Asia Hatibikeho, a Huta in Dutch. Hawan Adalia. I don't know. Captured Veterans Office aid at the Histel the initial aid at the Hidol so he don't miss Eben Nach a Canada Idol less DB the inishigi AD Barnate Echo a good election and here.
Thank you, Mr. Tooley, for your response and clarification on this legislation. I'll go back to Naabik'íyáti Commission and 24th Navajo Nation Council. Any further questions, comments? Danita. So with that, they also to roll call vote to accept legislation 0227-22. It goes on to Navajo Nation Council. Ms. Sosi? No, Shanta, hold on. They are having technical difficulties getting the vote moving, but we will get them moving here.
Good morning. Good afternoon, honorable members. Honorable Elmer Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not vote. Honorable
vote
Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. did not vote. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. did not vote. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Delegate Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Knesba Crotty is excused. Honorable Seth Damon is excused. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland did not vote. Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Chair Pro Tem Jamie Henyo not voting. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Ricky Nez. Honorable Ricky Nez. Honorable Ricky Nez did not vote. Honorable Carl Slater.
Green.
Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. did not vote. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So is excused. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Edison Wanika. Honorable Edison Wanika votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
Delegate Yellowhair votes green.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up, Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer
Vote
Begay.
green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. did not vote. Honorable Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Mark Freeland.
I vote green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo does not vote. I'm sorry. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Ricky Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Ricky Nez votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart.
Green, sorry.
Honorable Wilson Stewart votes green. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Thomas Walker. Honorable Thomas Walker. Honorable Thomas Walker did not vote. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. Chairman Pro Tem Henia, you have 15 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you. 15 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. We have legislation 0227-22 receives a due pass from Naabik'íyáti committee and it moves on to nomination council. Next legislation 230023-22, sponsored by Shinant Akuda, Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. Emmanuel, if you lead the registration into the record, please.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, tracking number 0023-22, an act relating to health, education, and human services, law and order, and Naabik'íyáti committees and the Navajo Nation Council, amending certain sections of the Navajo Nation Code to transfer legislative oversight over veteran services to the Naabik'íyáti Committee. This legislation is sponsored by Honorable Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. You do have committee reports from the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee that recommend a due pass with no amendments. A committee report from the Law and Order Committee that recommend a due pass with no amendment. This legislation moves on to the Navajo Nation Council. Chairman.
Thank you, Adla. Thank you for the reading of the legislation into the record. Kudoya, motion. Is there a motion?
Delegate Yellowhair motion.
Motion by Shinanta, Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair. Is there a second? Legislation 0023-22, motion by Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair. Is there a second? Is there a second? Going once?
Delegate Rick Nez, second.
Shinanta, Delegate Rick Nez, Chairman Rick Nez. Shinanta. Thank you. So we do have a motion, a second on the floor. Therefore, we'll move forward to questions. Any questions on this legislation? On legislation 0023-22, any questions? Shinanta, 24th Nomination Council, Naabik'íyáti Committee. Danita, there are no questions. We'll go to a roll call vote.
Beginning the vote with Honorable Elmer Begay, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr., how do you vote? Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. did not vote. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay did not vote. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote? Honorable
Delegate
Eugenia
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Kines-Bakrati and Honorable Seth Damon are excused. Honorable Herman Daniels, how do you vote? Honorable Herman Daniels. Honorable Herman Daniels did not vote. Honorable Mark Freeland, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote? Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Pernell Halona did not vote. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez, votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater, how do you vote?
Red.
Honorable Carl Slater votes red. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
Red.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes red. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So, how do you vote? Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So, how do you vote? Honorable Daniel So.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not vote. Honorable Otto So is excused. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., how do you vote? Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Edison Juanica, how do you vote? Honorable Edison Juanica votes red. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote?
Delegate Yellowhair votes green.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up, Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr., how do you vote?
Yeah, votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Paul Begay votes red. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Herman Daniels, how do you vote?
Vote red.
Honorable Herman Daniels votes red. Honorable Pernell Halona, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Charlene So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not vote. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., how do you vote? Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. With that, Pro Tem Speaker, you have 11 delegates who voted in favor, 5 delegates who oppose, with presiding Chair Pro Tem Speaker Honorable Jamie Henio not voting. Excuse me, Honorable Eugene So votes green. Pro Tem Speaker, that changes the vote to 12 delegates in favor, 5 delegates who oppose, with presiding Chair Pro Tem Speaker Honorable Jamie Henio not voting.
Yeah, thank you for the roll call vote. Legislation 0023-22 receives a due pass with 12 in favor, 5 opposed, Chair not voting. This moves on to the Navajo Nation Council. Moving on to item D, legislation 240-22. We do have Madam Chair Charles Newton on the call for the sponsorship for this manual. If you read the legislation to the record.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, tracking number 0240-22, an act relating to the Law and Order and Naabik'íyáti Committees and the Navajo Nation Council, amending Title 17 of the Navajo Nation Code. This legislation is sponsored by Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton and Honorable Vice Chair So you do have a committee report from the Law and Order Committee that recommend it do pass with no amendment. This legislation moves on to the Navajo Nation Council. Mr. Chairman.
For the reading of the legislation to the record. Is there a motion for legislation 240-22?
Delegate Yellowhair motion.
Motion, Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair. Is there a second? Motion, Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair. Is there a second on legislation 240-22?
Second, Delegate James.
A second by Delegate Vitz James. So we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there questions? Any questions on this legislation?
For question.
Delegate Yellowhair question.
Okay, we have questions from two committee members, Vice Chair Slater and Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair. So we do have questions. Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 20 minutes to introduce your legislation to the Naabik'íyáti Committee.
Thank you, Chair Henyo, and also colleagues. I do bring before you at this time amendments to Title 17, which is the criminal code. This is the code that covers all criminal conduct on the Navajo Nation. There are amendments that are presented to you at this time. Please know that these amendments, they started originally in 2017. My understanding of that was that there was a consultant that was hired to look at the code. That consultant was hired under the chief prosecutor at the time, Gertrude Lee, as well as the Department of Justice. During that time, there were recommendations that were made using comparisons not only to federal laws, but also to state laws, in addition to what we currently had within our code. This code right now has been, it hasn't been updated so much as the laws are present to the Navajo people. There have been several amendments that have been made to this particular Title 17, starting from February 16th, 2012 with the Violence Against Family Act under CJA-04-12, all the way down to the last amendment being on May 9th, 2022 with CAP-16-22, which was to establish criminal penalties for vicious dogs and other animal attacks. So there have been little amendments coming through the process that have been made to Title 17. However, these amendments, as stated, did undergo several. There were several times where we had the prosecutor's office, we had law enforcement, which included patrol and also criminal investigations, Department of Justice, Public Defender's Office, and many others who took part since 2017 to try to amend these, to amend Title 17. What we did was, with this last amendment, all of the previous recommendations for the amendments that were made were put into one amendment, as well as a few others that were included, such as those pertaining to expanding the victim's rights, and it just no longer being just a small section within Title 17, but it actually being a little bit more of a, I guess, more protection for our victims. I do have my agent on the line, Mr. Vernon Jackson, who is the Chief Prosecutor, and also Chief Daryl Noon from Navajo Nation Police Department. Chief Prosecutor Jackson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Chief Prosecutor Jackson, Chair Hanyu, I'd like to turn the floor over to my agent at this time who can give a little bit more information with the amendments that are presented before this council.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, Shikado Shidanem, Vernon L. Jackson Inshia. It Aninishledo Kiani Bashichin, State Dashiche Ado, Todicini Dashinella, A could out and then the Good afternoon, distinguished members of the committee that we are before this morning, and those who are online guests. It is an honor to be able to speak to you today, this morning, this afternoon. Again, my name is Vernon Jackson. I hail from the heart of the Navajo Nation in Chinle, Arizona. Today, we are seeking your support to pass legislation to revise Title 17 of the Navajo Nation's Criminal Code. I will briefly discuss historical facts of previous attempts to revise Title 17. I next will want to share some insight about the unchanging perception of lawlessness on the Navajo Nation from the perspective of those who rose to the challenge to attempt to change the law. I will also use crime statistics to highlight the thousands of new cases involving hundreds of victims that are now subjected to the shortfalls of Title 17. I will conclude my comments here by briefly explaining what parts of Title 17 has been revised and what part has not. It is my hope in this short presentation I will compel you to support this legislation to change Title 17. Within the last 4 years, there have been a total of 3 full-scale overhaul attempts to revise Title 17. Our attempt here today counts as the 4th endeavor to revise the code that's within the last 4 years. In this regard, let me break down the hard work that was performed by several groups in an attempt to revise this code. In doing this, I must say it is remarkable to see how much the evidence shows that within the last 4 years, the Navajo Nation officials have been sensitive to the demands of the Navajo communities through their many attempts to change the Navajo Nation's criminal code. First, under the leadership of former Attorney General Ethel Branch, around 2017, a group was formed to develop and submit for legislation a revision to Title 17 that was coined the Monster Slayer. Around the same time, 2 public safety summits were held, which seems to be driving some of the vigor to revise Title 17. So former Attorney General Branch's group served as the first team, and they demonstrated zeal and effort to recommend changes to Title 17. Unfortunately, the Monster Slayer version did not reach the floor of the Navajo Nation Council for consideration. Even so, I will share an important fact from former AG Branch's work on the Monster Slayer to make a point about the need to hear the pleadings of the Navajo communities to improve law and order. The next group involved DOJ representatives, public safety officials, and other branch representatives in 2019. One attorney named Daniel Watts was active in this effort to revise Title 17, as evidenced by the working documents we reviewed and that showed Mr. Watts' consistent engagement in the effort. Mr. Watts now works as an attorney with the Public Defender's Office. This group, the second group, started its work using the Monster Slayer version, but later set it aside and started with the existing Title 17. Today, our group recognizes this work as the Watts version. In the end, again, this compilation was not sponsored and offered for legislation. Nevertheless, our group recognizes the value that the Watts group created in recommending changes to Title 17. Some of it was brought over from the Monster Slayer version, but we recognize the value that the Watts group created in recommending their changes to Title 17. Therefore, the majority of the recommendations to change Title 17 offered by the Watts group were adopted and incorporated into the version you have today. The third group involved a team led by the Honorable Chair Charles Newton. This widely represented group of Navajo Nation officials reviewed several provisions of Title 17, but unfortunately, their work was not presented for legislation. A review of the compilation provided by Chair Charles Newton's office reveals her group also used the Watts version to begin the task of revising Title 17. Chair Charles Newton's attempt here was notable in that it represented a continuing effort to do something about the requests of Navajo communities to restore law and order through the revision of the criminal code. This brings us to where we are today with the fourth attempt to revise Title 17. Our group is made up of 14 Navajo Nation prosecutors, 7 victim witness advocates, key command staff from the Navajo Police, Navajo Criminal Investigation, Navajo Department of Corrections, and Navajo Department of Justice. We represent the boots on the ground perspective in that we deal with the criminal code every day and understand where the law can be changed to improve law and order within the Navajo communities. A sobering viewpoint of what Navajo Nation communities are facing is obvious when a piece of history is captured to show how critical the need to revise the Navajo Nation's criminal code is. I shared with you earlier, I wanted to reference a fact from former AG Branch's work to revise Title 17. Specifically, if I had the opportunity, I would put up on a PowerPoint slide, a slide that was prepared 4 years ago by AG Branch's group. And the verbiage in the group resonates a situation that has not changed all the way up to 4 years later. Their recommendations on their slide reads comprehensive review and update of Title 17. 2, deter and hold repeat violent offenders accountable. 3, extend victim rights to all crime victims. And finally, maximize use of limited resources. Same situation that we have today. It has not changed. I did not create the slide. It was prepared to introduce the Monster Slayer version by Branch's group. The important takeaway here is that the situation involving crime on Navajo communities has not improved. In fact, the community meetings I've attended this past year have clearly represented that communities across the Navajo Nation demand changes within the law. Restorative justice does not mean violent offenders and repeat offenders are arrested and charged and released without any intervention for a treatment or offer of rehabilitative services. It is not fair to the victims, the accused, the community at large, and the perceived at large that the perceived lawlessness continues to be disregarded. Now, please allow me to put it into our minds and hearts, put our minds and hearts in the right place as we talk about the reality of crime and how our people, their families and relatives are vulnerable because of the way the current Title 17 provisions are failing to provide crime victims the justice they deserve. One way to present to you a snapshot of the existing state of affairs is through the use of crime statistics from the Office of the Prosecutor that has been analyzed for the period October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. Through this analysis, these trends and patterns become the source of evidence to show that a significant number of our people are susceptible to the deficits found in the current law and order code, Title 17. It is safe to say that the trends and patterns I speak of today are similar to the prosecutorial statistics for the last 4 years. This narrow review of data helps to bring clarity that crime victims during the period of review are at risk to be re-victimized by the shortfalls of the current criminal code. Focusing on family violence cases filed during this period shows that 1,305 new cases were added to the prosecutor's workload. In fact, there were about 1,305 family violence cases filed every year. And if you multiply that by 4, that could get us up to close to 5,220 new family violence cases that have been filed within the last 4 years. Of the 1,305 cases, 600 of those cases involve battery of a family member. 250 of these cases involves threatening behavior between family members that involve some sort of threat related to physical injury or serious damage to property. Moreover, about 250 of these cases involve an incident of family member being threatened by word or conduct to cause physical injury or to threaten to cause serious damage to property. Nearly 200 of these cases involves criminal damage, actual criminal damage, where an individual intentionally or knowingly deface or damage tangible property of a family member. And still yet, 100 of these cases involve aggravated battery of a family member, or an unlawful use of force involving a deadly weapon or force that cause serious bodily injury for family members. More than 50 of these cases involve an alleged violation of an active protection order. When multiplied by 4, these protection orders goes up to 200 that are being processed under this current Title 17 as we look into the 4-year span. The point that is being made here is that 4,979 newly filed criminal cases is a good number of offenses that will be prosecuted in accordance to the provisions of a failing criminal code. There are many victims involved in these cases who believe that their rights as victims of crime is lacking. Others connected as victims, witnesses, or concerned family members perceive the sale of alcohol and drugs as unceasing, and that bootleggers face no consequences for their actions. Victims of domestic violence are not provided the time to file for a protection order or believe that the law has abandoned them. Repeated offenders don't serve time because the law is lenient, making intervention difficult for those who are willing to accept treatment for addictions. More importantly, victims of major crimes experience extreme frustration when they hear their case is not prosecuted in the Navajo Nation courts because the time to prosecute has expired. As a footnote, 51% of the major crimes since 2019 have been declined for prosecution because of the expiring time to prosecute the case. Let's change direction now. Allow me to share with you a few important points about the revisions that you have in front of you. This is not an absolute listing of all the changes, but it does provide explanation that will capture examples of the provision within Title 17 that needs to change to deal with the failing administration of criminal justice on the Navajo Nation. For example, criminal homicide, assault on a peace officer or correction officer, solicitation of a minor for prostitution, solicitation involving a minor in sexual contact or sexual act, aggravated sexual assault, armed robbery, aggravated battery of a family member, and unlawful use of a weapon against a family member are proposed to require a mandatory sentencing between no less than 180 days and no more than 365 days. Across the current provisions of Title 17, some changes are proposed to increase incarceration rates and fines in the effort to deter behavior that negatively impacts communities and crime victims. Offenses such as aggravated arson, criminal homicide, threatening, use of a weapon, unlawful sale and possession of transportation and use of explosives, bootlegging, promotion of prostitution, solicitation of a minor for prostitution, furnishing sexual materials to minors, public indecency, sexual assault, sexual act or sexual contact with a minor, sexual exploitation of a minor through electronic device, abandonment of a child, persistent non-support, endangering the welfare of a minor, criminal nuisance, disorderly conduct, false reporting, public intoxication, armed robbery, unlawful imprisonment of a family member, aggravated assault of a family member, aggravated battery of a family member, possession of a firearm, trespass with force or violence, threatening of a family member, and unlawful use of a weapon against a family are all proposed for an increased penalty for convictions under those offenses. Additionally, time limitations for prosecution of certain crimes has increased to 5 years for some offenses, while serious offenses such as homicide and offenses involving children are proposed to be set with no time limitations to bring criminal prosecution. There are some new offenses involving voyeurism, also assault upon a Navajo Nation official, battery upon a Navajo Nation official, resisting, evading, and obstructing an officer that are all slated in this new proposal. Finally, through this legislation, provisions have been changed within Title 17 that will improve the ways crime victims interact with Navajo Nation criminal justice system. Victims' rights will now be extended and be applicable to all offenses in Title 17 and not just the Family Violence Act. The definition of family member has been revised to capture an intimate or romantic partner. Victims also now have a person of their choice to accompany them for moral support through the process, through the Navajo Nation's criminal justice system. There are new requirements on the prosecutor to communicate with the victim during the entirety of the case through final disposition. Victims will also be allowed to review pre-sentence reports when these reports have been made available and to be informed of the accused release within 24 hours before release. Anytime an accused escapes from custody, the victim has a right to be notified. Timely notification of court proceedings regarding the prosecution of cases has also been proposed as a crime victim's rights. Crime victims will also have an additional right to prompt restitution for loss or injury and the right to have court orders related to the case enforced. Crime victims will also have the right to be free of intimidation, harassment, abuse, or uninitiated contact. Everyone arrested for family violence violation will now be required to be held for a mandatory 36-hour period to allow a cooling off time for the victim to file a protection order against the offender. No more reliance on police officers needing to contact a prosecutor to request a 36-hour hold is going to be the statutory requirement. Members of this committee, Honorable Chair Eugenia Charles Nguyen, that concludes my remarks. Thank you very much.
Chair Hanyo, do I have time left?
Madam Chair Charles, just closing remark. That was time right there.
Okay. So with that, we do stand for questions, Chair Hanyo.
Thank you for your presentation, Shananda, on your legislation 240-22. We do have be mindful we have 7 minutes left before we have to shut down on Naabik'íyáti to go to council. So real quickly, Vice Chair Carlos Slater, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I was forwarded a letter, and I think the entire council was, from the Public Defender's Office. And they seem to be very opposed to the legislation as it stands right now. And I wanted to know if the sponsor or the agent had reviewed the letter and if there were responses to the items made in the letter. I guess I won't read them all right now, but that's the first thing. And then I also was forwarded a letter from ABNDN that had concerns about the legislation and did not seem to be in support of it. So I just want to hear from the sponsor and their agent on responses to those items right now and allow time for my colleagues to ask questions too. Thank you.
Vice Chair Slater, for your question to the presenter. I'll go to Shananda Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair, then I'll go back to the sponsor. Shananda Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair.
Not that yes, the speaker here, Honorable Henio. As I listen to Jackson, I'm for support this legislation. Looks like it has some teeth now. Because there's some ladies back when I was with judicials, there's many ladies that have concern of judicial doesn't have no teeth at all. Too much problems under the current law. We need to help the victims be protective. Area also about this. Abiga sendide. But Thank you. I support this legislation Thank you, Honorable Chairperson Eugenia Charles Newton. Thank you for bringing this legislation. Mr. Hanushka, floor back to you.
Delegate Jimmy O'Hare for your comment on supporting the legislation. For the question, Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Thank you for the questions, Delegate Slater. So in terms of the letter that was sent by Mr. Daniel Watts, I think it's unfair that the letter was sent to the entire council and it should have been attached as comments for the entire Navajo Nation to read. So, you know, it's really, I guess, in a way, it should be attached as a comment. That way, again, the entire Navajo Nation can read that. In terms of my response to the letter, you know, the Public Defender's Office did take part in the drafting of the amendment. They were part of that, and in fact, we have several, I guess, documents that show that Public Defender's Office was involved, and Mr. Daniel Watts technically was the attorney for PD, and then he transferred to Public Defender's Office, which presents a conflict. And Law and Order Committee did request a letter, you know, explaining the conflict, but we never received it, and that's been over a year. And so we did request that because we know that right now it is going to come, and as it's clearly, you know, shown right now through the email that was sent, there is a conflict. Mr. Watts was representing police department, and then he left the police department to go and be the public defender, which is opposite sides. And every attorney is required to present a conflict letter, and it was sent to him. But again, you know, we haven't received it in over a year. So in terms of what the letter stated, I did read it and I did forward it as well to Public Defender's Office, to Chief Noon, I guess to all of the parties who were involved with the amendment since they were not included in the email that he sent. And I'll give Mr. Vernon Jackson the opportunity to reply to the letter that was sent. And then in terms of the Azet Ben Navajo, so I just got clarification. That is not sent on behalf of the Azet Ben Navajo. It is sent on behalf of the Vice President, Albert Johnson. And so the board, I did forward it to the board. So the board is a little bit confused. As they did reach out to me, some of the board members did reach out to me asking me about, you know, what was being stated regarding the Azet legislation. All we did was we moved it to a new section. So the language pretty much stays the same, and we also included a defense. And the purpose of including a defense in that is that the way that the legislation or the way that the language was previously written was if you were in possession of peyote or paraphernalia, you could be arrested, and it was a criminal charge. However, the defense now is, you know, that it's still a protection of peyote and paraphernalia. And if you have your card, it gives you a valid defense to say, you know, that you shouldn't be arrested, or, you know, that charges shouldn't be brought against you because you are a member of the church. So just to be clear and on the record, that letter that was sent by Herschel Walker was on behalf of Albert Johnson and not on behalf of the Azet Ben Navajo. So I just want to make that clarification. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor. Oh, hello?
Hi.
Hello?
Okay, I'm muted.
Hello?
It's time. Time has expired on the Naabik'íyáti committee meeting. Therefore, we need to transition over to Navajo Nation Council.
Very
24th
quickly,
Navajo
as per
Nation Council,
Henry,
Naabik'íyáti Committee. We have concluded the Naabik'íyáti committee meeting. We do need to transfer to Navajo Nation Council as we had hosted at 1 o'clock. So we will begin the council session proceedings once we switch over to the council.